Morning, Casey.
Good morning.
How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing very well. Thank you. Yeah, we're going over navigation, use of the E6B. We're talking about airspace, which is a kind of a short session we're doing there. So, morning, Malachi. How you doing? Good. Doing well. Yeah, you'll need your plotter and your E6B today. Yes, and the sectional, your Seattle sectional. Morning, Gracie. A few minutes before we get started. Morning.
Good morning.
How you guys doing today?
What's that?
How you guys doing today?
Good. Tired.
Really? Late night last night?
It's this time of year.
You're doing a lot of gigs?
Well, it's transferred over to someone else. Oh, so I can still leave here, you know, that right downtown.
Mm-hmm. Keeps you busy.
So finishing school, property ready. maybe summer.
Uh-huh. Just everything happens at once.
Exactly.
Good deal.
Just spring gardens and all of that. So. A lot.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Got a call in the middle of the night because their brother-in-law blew a flat, and so
Oh
middle of the
no.
night. So it's just
Yeah.
go,
It's
go,
so much
go.
for getting sleep.
Exactly. I specifically got to bed early.
A few more minutes and we'll rest everybody else arrive here. So we're diving into airspace and navigation today. Let me talk a little bit about aeromedical factors. There's a, I think what we'll do is, originally I think we were going to plan on flying everybody next week, but I think I'm going to leave that open for questions. So if you guys have, questions and you want to come in and talk about things, so definitely go through all the quizzes. Kind of if you have any areas that you just don't understand, you need to let me know and we'll work through it. Go through some problems. I know a lot of people had questions on the weight and balance side of things, so we'll spend some time on the end.
I'm not.
What's that?
I'm not.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, I tell people all the time, this is a college level class. You're getting just a massive dose of information on here. So it's it's not something that people can absorb really easily. And you have to, I've always said you need to plan on spending at least 3 hours outside of class studying. Not everybody has the luxury of that much time. And we all have jobs. Morning, Andrew. How do you do?
We did for the first few.
Yeah.
Next week is auto motion. And so
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I will be.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Yeah. Hey, Priest. How you guys doing today?
Yeah, you can remove the room. I still cannot understand this everything stuff. How you guys doing? I don't know.
I do have SIA, but I don't have Oh, I had it. I'm pretty happy.
Oh,
Yes.
Oh, you're great.
I can
Okay, all right.
There was one where like, what is this sign? What is this sign?
Oh, yeah.
I had that, I was like. Yeah.
I was like, oh,
I just like that's. So I did the last afterwards.
that's fine.
Yes, it's not like us.
Well, look at that. Yeah, we're learning how to make a body.
All right, perfect. Hey, Sam, how you doing? All right, how you doing? All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. All right. We're recording. Okay, that sounds great. Thank you. So everybody, we do have a couple guests here. They are some UW, they're master's students, is that right? This is Janelle right here, and this is Preet. They are both aviation flight students. Preet is really close to taking her flight test. They're going to go around and help us today with we get into navigation and stuff like that. They're going to help you guys, open the charts. They can't get around to everybody. They'll help you guys with some of that stuff too. And if you've got questions, they know aviation inside and out, so they can help answer some of those questions here for you. Okay, so this week we're talking, we're going to be doing three, if we can, and we're going to do 3 chapters, airspace, navigation, and aeromedical factors in aviation. So the first thing I want to talk about is airspace and classifications of airspace. So generally speaking, there's 2 different categories of airspace. There is regulatory and non-regulatory airspace. This is chapter 15 in the books, if you want to follow along in there. And then within those 2 different categories, there are 4 subcategories in each of them. There's controlled airspace, uncontrolled special use, and other airspace. It gets kind of confusing, but follow along with me, and I'll try to do as good as I can here on some of the stuff here. So under controlled airspace, we have what's called a classification system for the different types of airspace, and this is how, when we fly to different airports, we need to know what type of airspace it is. The reason we do this, and you could probably guess, if flying at Baraboo, the Baraboo Dells Airport, is not the same as flying into Chicago O'Hare, right? Because Chicago O'Hare, you've got jets coming in every minute. They're taking off and landing and stuff like that. So Baraboo is not that busy. So whereas Chicago is extremely busy, so they have these different classification systems. We're known as a Class G airport. And I'll get into these designations in a second. So the one that's the most restrictive is Class A, and that starts, and it covers the entire continental U.S. It starts at 18,000 feet and it goes up to 60,000 feet. The requirements to enter that airspace, as you would have to have an IFR flight plan. So as a VFR pilot, when you get your private pilot's license, you're not going to be flying in Class A airspace because it's, number one, it's really high. It's 18,000 feet. And most general aviation airplanes just don't fly that high. Also, you need an IFR, rating to get into Class G or Class A airspace. So it's very controlled. So the one thing you're going to notice about the different levels of airspace is they use them basically to control aircraft, and it mostly has to do with instrument flight rules. So controlled airspace, and that's going to be Class A, B, C, D, and E. Those are all controlled by ATC. What I mean by that is ATC's radar can actually see all of those airspaces. All right. So they can actually see if an aircraft is getting too close to you or whatever, and they can give directions to that aircraft or your aircraft to avoid the other one. So that's ATC's primary job, is to help avoid collisions in airspace, particularly when you're flying in the clouds or somebody's flying in the clouds. They want to separate the aircraft. And you'll notice here again, you've got Class A that covers the whole U.S. right here. You've got this Class E airspace, which is the blue area right here. That's all Class E. This is all Class E right here. That's Class E down there, whatever, right there. That covers pretty much everything else between Class A and the surface there. And then the next one that's very restrictive is Class B. Now, we use the phonetic pronunciation for these. So Class B is Class Bravo. So if somebody says you're in Bravo airspace, that means you're in Class B airspace, okay? Class C would be considered Class Charlie. That's a phonetic pronunciation for C, and that's something that's in your books there. And Class D is Delta airspace. All right, so Class B, though, that's, like O'Hare, Atlanta, LAX, those are all Class B airports. These look like upside down wedding cakes. So basically at 10, they go up to roughly about 10,000 feet MSL. But you can see here how it's looks like an upside down wedding cake, and that's so that planes can descend inside this airspace to get down to the runway there. This is, let me show you this diagram right here. This is a little bit better diagram of Class Bravo airspace. And again, it looks like an upside down wedding cake. Again, the top is at 10,000 feet MSL. That's above sea level, right? Mean sea level. And then you descend, they'll guide aircraft into this. So we as VFR pilots, unless you have your instrument rating and you're flying into this or whatever, you would, you'd have to have an IFR flight plan to get into this, or you'd have to have a special clearance to get into Class Bravo airspace. So you do need a clearance. That's important, and we'll talk about that in a second as well. So, but again, what this does is it funnels traffic down into this, major airport, whatever it is, LAX, Chicago, whatever. But it's because of that shape there, it protects the aircraft that are inside its airspace. So these controllers in that tower, they actually have a separate center for this. They'll actually track all the aircraft. They'll be talking to them, guiding them down to a landing, a safe landing, or a takeoff, and when they leave the airport there. So that's what Class B is. It's busy. Think of Class B as busy airspace. That's going to be your, again, Chicago's. The next level is Class Charlie airspace. And Class Charlie it's kind of like Class Bravo, but it's not as busy. So examples of Class Charlie airspace are going to be like Milwaukee, Madison. Let's see, Minneapolis is Class Bravo. Green Bay is, yeah, they've got Class Bravo airspace up there. So they have a Class Bravo, Class Charlie airspace usually is always going to have a radar, just like Class Bravo. They're going to have some radar surveillance, and they can see the traffic coming in and out. Class Charlie is going to have the same thing. They're going to have some type of radar to, again, guide the planes down into the airport there. Class Charlie airspace, it starts at the surface, so basically the airport, and extends out about 5 nautical miles in the first shelf right here. In the second shelf, the outer ring, the outer area that they call it, that is a radius of about 10 nautical miles from the center of the airport there. And that's Charlie airspace. It normally extends up to 4,000 feet AGL, as opposed to like we saw in Class Bravo airspace, it's MSL, 10,000 feet MSL. With Class Charlie airspace, it's 4,000 feet AGL, above ground level, okay? So that's gonna be, your MSL would be, whatever the field elevation is, plus 4,000 feet would be your MSL altitude there. So again, you've got your, it's like kind of an upside down cake here. You've got, traffic getting funneled into this. Now, the one thing that's different about Class Charlie airspace over Class Bravo, you need a clearance to enter. So if you go into Class Charlie or Class Bravo airspace and you don't have a clearance, you'll probably get in trouble. With Class Charlie airspace, you just have to have two-way radio communications, but is a very important but to that. To get two-way radio communications, the FAA is very specific on what they mean by that. So two-way radio communications in Class Charlie airspace would be them repeating your N number. So let me give you an example. So let's say I'm flying down to Madison, okay, and I want to land at Madison Airport. So over Lake Wisconsin, when I'm outside of their Class Charlie airspace, I'm going to say Madison approach, Cessna 264 and Romeo is, 15 mile or over Lake Wisconsin at 3,000 feet. Would like to land at Madison with, Gulf. That's the information letter, which we'll talk about until we get to navigation. So they would come back and they would see one of two things: aircraft calling Madison standby, or the other thing they could say is 264 and Romeo standby. Okay, do you see the difference between the two there? One repeated my N number and the other one did not. When they say your N number, that's essentially your clearance so that you can go into their airspace. But they have to repeat your N number. If they don't repeat it, that means that you cannot go into their airspace. So if they say 264 Romeo, clear to Madison, contact tower on, 19.3 or something like that. that's essentially a clearance into their airport. It's not a clearance in the terms of like Class Bravo airspace. They will actually say the word cleared. You are cleared into Class Bravo airspace. They still may say your N number, of course, but they will use the term cleared. That's the difference between a clearance and permission, essentially, to go into Class Bravo airspace. Again, does that make sense, everybody? Okay, so you've got to hear that N number repeated by them, your N number repeated by them, to enter the Class Charlie airspace. Okay, all right. So Class Delta airspace, you can guess, is probably a little bit less congested than like the Milwaukees, Madisons, and Green Bays. So places like La Crosse, Appleton, those are Class Delta airspaces. They're not as busy as the Madisons, Green Bays, and Milwaukees, but they're busy enough where they really need to have an operating tower. No, Bearwood does not have a tower, so we're not considered Class Delta. We're actually called call it Class our Gulf Airport, because we're in Class G airspace here. So Class D is again not as busy as a Class C, but you do have a control tower. So for to enter into their airspace, well, first off, let's look at the dimensions of the airport. Typically, it's going to be, I think around 5 nautical miles from the center of the airport, around the airport here, so 5 nautical miles radius there. And then the dimensions, typically are going to be like 2,500 feet above ground level, just like, you look at Class C airspace, it's 4,000 feet AGL. Class D is 2,500 feet, typically, not always, but typically it's 2,500 feet AGL. So again, that's not MSL, whereas, Class Bravo is MSL, 10,000 feet MSL. Okay. Yes. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, what's that?
They would say busiest airport in the world.
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's Oshkosh is considered Class Delta airspace, but they do have radar facilities up there for the convention, because there's so much. It is a very busy. I mean, it is by far the busiest airport in the world. Have you ever been up there by chance? Yeah. So you've seen the lines. It looks like literally like a bunch of flies descending in on the approach paths to those runways. You look at all the aircraft that come in there. If they have their landing lights, they'll turn it on, and you'll actually see these just a swarm of aircraft descending. So they do things differently there. They don't rely so much on radar. They rely on sight. If they do go, let's say the conditions drop so that VFR flights aren't allowed in there, and it's just IFR flights, then it's just like a real busy Delta, Class Delta airport with IFR departures and arrivals on there. So, but they do have radar there. It's just they rely on sight. So just to give you an idea of how this operates, because it's really fascinating if you ever see it. So they have remote points all around Oshkosh, particularly on the west and south side. They have these volunteer air traffic controllers that camp out at these locations, and they've got binoculars, and they are looking at the aircraft. And what they'll do is they'll say, okay, 26, or they'll say white and blue high wing aircraft, wag your wings. And so you'll rock your wings, and then you'll rock your wings, and they'll say good rock. So it's they'll see the aircraft rocking the wings. They'll be down here someplace. They'll see you rock your wings, and they'll say, okay, continue on your course. You're going to be landing on runway 18. Continue on the appropriate course there. And there's usually like a path you have to follow. And they don't want you to talk to them unless they specifically state it. So you keep your mouth shut the whole time up there. They're just going to give you instructions. So again, it's a very different type of air traffic control, but it's extremely efficient. So it'd be nice if it was all radar control, but I think the way they do it is probably allows them to get more aircraft. And it literally, if you ever happen to drive up there, you're going to see literally a line of aircraft. If you go up toward, I think Montello, is it Prentice? Oh, God. Princeton, thank you. Yes, Princeton. If you take that route up there, there's a arrival path up there, and you'll just see one aircraft after another. It's just a long line of aircraft. When it gets really busy, they actually circle around the lake, so you'll just see a racetrack pattern of aircraft going in there. So to answer your question, it's still Class Delta airspace. They don't consider it, Class Bravo while it operates up there. But it is. They do have other information that they provide. They have notices and notams about arrivals and things like that change some things for the typical arrivals. Like if I were to go up there today, for instance, it would be no different than landing at any other Class Delta airspace. But when Oshkosh is running, it's a totally different procedure. Then you have to follow their arrival rules and everything. So. And it's an amazing dance that they do between APC and air traffic. It's just incredible. Again, all volunteers. So all the controllers are volunteering, and including the airshow pilots themselves, they all volunteer to it. So okay, so that's Class Delta airspace. So the other couple things I'm going to point out here too. So Class Bravo airspace also has what's called a Mode C ring. It's also called an ADSB out ring. So it's a 30 nautical mile radius around the airport. I don't know if they show it here. I think on the sectional, they show it on the sectional, I think with the, is it a magenta line, I believe? It's a magenta circle. Extends 30 nautical miles out from the center of the airport. And to actually go into that airspace, you have to have what's called a Mode C transponder. Mode C transponder. It has to be working and has to be turned on. You also have to have an ADSB out transmitter, which is just essentially transmitting your position, GPS coordinates, speed, direction, things like that to them. That is regardless of whether you are under this Mode C or Mode B veil here. You can see this right here, these layers right here. It doesn't make a difference if you're right here. So like this area right here normally would not be considered Class Bravo airspace. This is Class Bravo airspace. This is Class Bravo. But under these little shelves here, that's not Bravo airspace. That's a different type of airspace depending on what area you're in. It might be Class Echo. It could be Class Charlie. Depends on what other airports are around it. So, but the 30 nautical mile radius, you do have to have a Mode C transponder, and that's called a Mode C, a 30 mile Mode C ring on there. And we'll see it. Actually, let me just see here. I think I've got a. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, here we go. I'll just zoom out a little bit here. Seattle. Yes, this is Seattle. Yeah. So let's here we go. So Portland is, can anybody guess what Portland is just by looking at this? Would that be a Class B or Class C or Class D?
Class C.
Yeah, it's a Class Charlie airspace. It's got the two layers right here. We can't see, this is two-dimensional. We've got the inner layer, inner shelf right there, and we've got the outer shelf. Now this is somewhat segmented. We'll get into that a little bit later on too, but it still has the two rings there, the inner ring and the outer ring. So inner ring, 5 nautical miles from the runways there, and then 10 miles out, you got the outer ring right there. So this is Class Charlie airspace. There, yeah, I'm just going to show you there. Oh yeah, here. Let's go out to Seattle here. So I'm just going to zoom out a little bit here. Zoom up to Seattle here. Okay, Seattle this is Class Bravo airspace. Now notice that it's not the typical upside down wedding cake. It's extremely compartmentalized into different areas. Normally, most Class Bravo airspace, you've got the inner ring, outer ring, and then you've got the top ring itself. Here, they have different segments, and it has to do with terrain and the orientation of the runways. Their runways are north-south. They don't have any east-west runways, so there's no reason for them to have that extension over here. The traffic, when they come into land, they're all going to go through this area right here. There is the Mode C ring, that magenta line, Mode C and ADSB out. You'll see it right there. It's 30 nautical miles from the center of the airport right there. That's Seattle. Again, you have to go inside this airspace anywhere at any altitude. You have to have a Mode C transponder and an ADSB out. to penetrate that airspace. Whereas here, you know, I don't have to get a clearance. If I'm right here at, let's say, you know, 10,000 feet, I don't need a clearance to be here in this area right here. However, from 6,000 feet to 10,000 feet, I do need a clearance to get into Class Bravo airspace. That's a shelf right there. And then it drops down to 5,000 feet. Again, we'll get into these a little later on. Yeah.
So if the class probably fly about 10,000 feet, would still in the airspace?
No, you're not in Class Bravo airspace. At that point, you'd be in Class Echo airspace, which is still controlled airspace, but you may not be talking to a controller at that point. It's always a good idea that you do, but it's not absolutely required unless you're in IFR conditions. If you're in IFR conditions, you have to be talking to control at some point. You have to be dealing. All right, so that's Class A airspace, which again is the full. Let's see if we can get back here. So Class Alpha. Let's go back to our main screen right here. Class Alpha over the whole, you know, continental U.S. 10,000 to 18,000 feet. Class Bravo, again, you've got these this upside down wedding cake right here, and then the 30 nautical mile Old Sea ring and the ADSB ring there. Class C airspace, and then Class D airspace. That's the, you know, like again, La Crosse, central Wisconsin. I think Waukesha has got a tower. There's a lot of towered aircraft in there. So then there is Class Echo airspace. That's all of the other airspace surrounding these airports. The Class Echo airspace always starts at let's see, 10,000 feet, I believe. But it always exists at 14,500. But it typically extends down, oftentimes down to, you know, as low as, you know, 700 feet or 1,200 feet at most airports around the U.S. Again, it depends on, you have to think in terms of, you know, does ATC, and when I say ATC, I'm talking about air traffic control, right? So can ATC see the aircraft with their, you know, radars? If they can see aircraft with their radars, they generally want to control that airspace. There are a lot of areas in the mountainous, you know, portions of the United States where radars, they can't, you know, get past the mountains. And so that would be considered Class G airspace or Gulf airspace because the radars can't see it. And because of that fact, they can't control it. They can't, you know, say that I can't guarantee separation from other aircraft. Whereas all these other areas, they can do their best to keep aircraft separated. That's what ATC's primary job is, to separate IFR traffic from itself, obviously, and then from VFR traffic. They want to protect the airspace. So that's, again, controlled airspace, and that's the Class A, B, C, D, and E. That's all controlled airspace. G, however, is uncontrolled airspace. So that is, like, right now we're sitting in Class G airspace. It's uncontrolled airspace. And it makes sense when you sit here, like Madison is over the bluffs, right? Their radars can't get past our bluffs, right? So they can't even see, like, you know, like 500 feet above us right now. So that 500 feet above us is Class G airspace. If I were to put a dot up there, we'd be in Class G. If I flew a drone up there, that would be in Class G airspace. Because again, their radar can't see us, and there's no other radar facilities around here that would be able to see Baraboo. So they can't control it. They can't say, oh, you know, you've got IFR traffic off to your right, or you've got another plane off to your right. They can't do that in Class G airspace. So they say it's uncontrolled. And then what that means for you as a pilot is, okay, you need to have your head on a swivel when you're in Class G airspace. You need to be looking around. Actually, anytime you're out flying, you should be looking around for other aircraft. But even more so in Class Gulf airspace, you want to be looking around to make sure that you are checking for other aircraft. Okay. So again, you can read it here. Although ATC has no authority or responsibility to control air traffic in Class G airspace, pilots should remember that there are visual flight rules minimums that apply to Class G airspace, and we'll get into that in a second. All right, so controlled airspace, uncontrolled airspace. Again, controlled airspace, A, B, C, D, E. Uncontrolled airspace, Class G. And now we have another type of category, is special use airspace. And special use airspace covers a lot of different types of areas. So, this is one. You've got prohibited areas, you've got restricted areas, warning areas, military operation areas, alert areas, controlled firing areas. So let's go through each of those special use airspace areas. So for prohibited aircraft or prohibited areas, those are literally, you cannot enter prohibited airspace, period. Just period. It's prohibited from pilots from ever entering in. There may be a very rare circumstance where it's something you're allowed into it, but just think of it as, you know, I can't even fly in it. Okay. There's also restricted airspace. That is going to be restricted to the extent that if it's in operation, usually it's like a military operation. So like in Wisconsin, let's see if I can bring up the map here of Wisconsin. I'm just going to zoom out here real quick. So we've got what we call these military operation areas, but we have some other areas in Wisconsin here. So let's see. What's that?
It's a lot of airports.
Yes, it is. It is. The U.S. has got like something like 15,000 airports, and we are very fortunate to live in this country to have that.
There's a restriction.
Yes, yeah. I'll show you. So this right here is the Madison. Does anybody know what class airspace this is right here? Madison airspace. It's Charlie. Yeah, great. Okay, perfect. All right, so let's look at. There's some other types of airspace here, and if I look up here. We've got these hatched lines. You see these magenta hatched lines? Okay, this right here is a military operations area. Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. I go over here toward Black River Falls, and we've got this restricted area. See how that's blue hatched line right there? That's restricted airspace. So again, restricted airspace is, they describe it here, while wholly not prohibited, is subject to restrictions. So that means it's, you know, before, if I'm flying, let's say I'm flying to Eau Claire from Baraboo. So here's the Baraboo Hills Airport, and I've got a flight path up here to Durant Municipal Airport. I would be going right through that airspace. I cannot penetrate that airspace. That is obviously, you know, it's restricted. Now what I can do is I can call the controlling agency and say, hey, I'm going to be flying up there. Is this going to be this restricted area 6901A going to be active? And if they say no, you're cleared to enter that airspace, then I can fly through it. Now what this is, just so you know, whenever you see areas like this right here, here's another restricted area right here. These are gunnery ranges. So they've got jets that fly through here. And what they do is they come down this way, or I think it's just they come from the north here. They'll come in and they'll shoot up, tanks and stuff like that with, live rounds. So obviously we don't want to be in that flight path because it's not much fun getting shot at. So we stay out of that area. That said, we've got this military operations area that's all around this area right here. If you look at that, this is a military, the magenta hatched line right there. That's identifying a military operations area. Now, a military operations, or MOA, military operation area, you can penetrate as a VFR pilot, not as an IFR pilot. If you're on an IFR flight plan, you cannot go into a military operations area without clearance. So I could fly around this, even though this military operations area is active, I could still fly through that area. Is it a good idea? Probably not, especially if it's active. If it's not active, then it's like any other airspace. But you'll notice that within these military operations areas, you've got other airports. Here's an airport right here, Neillsville Municipal. They've got, airport right inside the military operations area. Now, the other thing to consider too is that these military operations areas and restricted areas may have certain limits, vertical limits, that they operate at. So to find that out, we can look at our charts here, and you'd have to open these up. They'll actually have this, and you don't have to open your charts up now, it's a little while, but if you look on the bottom of the charts, here's right here's an example of it. So on this Chicago Seattle sectional, you'll see the restriction areas, military operations areas listed here, and their normal times of operation and their altitudes that they operate. So it's possible you might be able to fly below a military operations area, and maybe above a restricted area. I don't know if that's possible, but it would be in here in the sectional itself. Otherwise, you could look up the restricted area online to find out when it's active, or just talk to a controller to say, hey, I'd like to fly through this. Is that active? And they'll tell you if it's active, you're not getting in. Yep. Oh gosh, that's a good question. That's like the rescue. My guess is, and I'm just taking a wild guess at this, they probably have special clearance. So they would always be on an IFR flight plan. Even though on a day like today, even though it's beautiful out, they would still be on an IFR flight plan, and ATC would do whatever they can to protect that flight. So if it's a good question, because we have what's called, and we'll talk about those in a second, we have what's called TFRs, or temporary flight restriction areas. That's when like a foreign, like the president visits, or one of the vice president or somebody high up comes and visits, like Barry or Madison or something like that. They actually set up what's called a temporary flight restriction area, and it's usually like a 30-mile radius around the area where they're going to be at. And I would think they would still allow those medical flights. If there's like an accident someplace, even though the president is there, they probably would grant permission for them to do. But again, I don't know. That's a great question. Yep, Sam.
My sister is training for EMT, and she used to like practice with Flight for Life.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And she said something about being like, it doesn't matter what most like the P, they can fly right through restricted airspace.
Mm-hmm.
But what does the P stand for again?
Prohibited
Airspace, they cannot fly through without
interesting.
without like
permission.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So they would. Yeah, and that would make sense. They would be talking to ATC. ATC would probably coordinate with, if it's like Camp David or something like that, that's a prohibited area. You can't fly in there. But if there was an accident in there, they would want to get that med flight in there, that Flight for Life in there to rescue the people. So there would be some coordination there. But generally speaking, pilots like us are not going to get into, the restricted when it's active and prohibited areas.
And they all, anyone the operators who fly on Flight for Life have to get radio, like certified, something like that. They have to, because all of them have to be able to know what they're saying, and they have to communicate to each other.
Mm-hmm.
They all
the staff that's on board the helicopter, so they know. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that they would have it. Usually, I think just the pilots would be the ones that would be talking, but there may be situations where pilots are busy with something else and they have to talk to them. So that's interesting. It'd be fun to learn a little bit more about that, how that works. But okay. The question was, how does Flight for Life, like a med flight and things like that, how do they, handle the prohibited and restricted areas there? So
that's kind of that is right after 9/11, the day of 9/11,
mm-hmm.
there's part of the plane that's very to operate because of the buildings.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't take off, so
yep. Yeah, so it sounds like they're going to do whatever they can to make sure that they're helping whoever it is that needs the assistance there. So they're kind of a special case there. So, all right. So restricted areas, again, you can check with the local ATC facility, whoever's in charge of that. It's like Volk Field is just northwest of here. They would be in charge of the military operations area. So here's, let's see. That's Boston. Here's Baraboo right here. This is Boston. There's Volk Field right there. So they would be in charge of these MOAs. And you can see there's a lot of MOAs north of Baraboo right here. This whole area is they're all MOAs. They're different ones. This is Volk Falls MOA. This is Volk West MOA, military operations area. And then this is Volk East. And what you'll see with these military operations areas, the reason why they designated this way is if you're going to be flying in this area right here, it's possible that you're going to see a jet fly by you doing crazy turns and stuff like that. So in July, I think it's in July, they have the I think it's like, was it the world's that they invite pilots from all across the world to train here in our skies. They do dogfight training, so they'll be doing all kinds of maneuvers. They'll practice doing their bombing runs and stuff like that. But it's very busy airspace, and again, you can, as a VFR pilot, you can penetrate that airspace and fly through it. Is it a good idea? Probably not. You'd want to find out if that area is active, because oh gosh, there was a famous photo of I think a F-16 pilot took outside of their plane, and he was just taking a picture of some area like a bombing range or something like that. He snapped the shot. They came back and landed. They developed the photo. This is years back. And when they developed one of the photos had the tail of a Cessna 150 in it, and he never even saw it. So these planes are going, really fast, right? They're going 700-800 miles an hour. A little Cessna going this way at 100 miles an hour, you got a closure rate of 800 miles an hour. It's going to be just like that. The closure rate is just going to be instant. So they didn't even see it, and it was literally right off their way. So that's how fast it occurs. That's the kind of potential dangers that you have in a military operations area, because you're dealing with fast jet aircraft. You'll have C-130s up there that are much slower, obviously, but the vast majority of aircraft, you're going to find a lot of fighters that I think is 35. So I think is what the guy said last year.
Marquette, my grandpa's hunting land,
Uh-huh.
so many acres.
Mhm.
And when in deer season, that's all you hear.
Jets, yeah, flying around.
It's
Yeah.
just jets, and I've spotted F-22s, F-15s, F-16s.
Yeah.
Like any plane.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Yeah, they'll train. They use the areas up there. So there's a lot of military airspace in the U.S. and we've got different classifications for them. Do you have something?
Next to my house, right above my house down in Manitowoc, there's an F-16 flying overhead. Because this was related to the Cessna incident.
Yeah.
Trying to confused to fly over these planes to be right here up in the air. Here.
Right. Yeah, you'd never even know. And that's if you ever notice jets flying overhead, you can listen for them and look for them, but usually you're looking behind the aircraft quite a ways, especially if they're really high up. So, okay, let's keep moving. So there's we've got restricted areas. Then there's warning areas. Warning areas are similar in nature to restricted areas. However, the United States government does not have sole jurisdiction over the airspace. So these are going to be the areas outside of the coast of the United States. So there may be, military traffic in that area. Since we don't have jurisdiction, we can't tell you what to do out there. The ATC can't tell you what to do. But if you look at all the coastal areas around the U.S., like the Pacific coast and the Atlantic coast, that's where you're going to see warning areas. So it's, again, you can read up on this in the book. The purpose of such areas is to warn non-participating pilots of potential danger. A warning area may be located over domestic or international waters or both. So again, that's a W or a warning area. And they usually have a W hyphen and then a number associated with them. Again, we talked about military operation areas. That's this stuff. We've got a lot of that in Wisconsin. We've got a lot of it. Here's a huge restricted area right here. Does anybody want to take a guess on why we'd have such a huge restricted area out there? Just a quick guess. Yeah. There's the other reason why they have this right here, the restricted areas. They do refueling out here. So they'll take off from Milwaukee, and the fuelers will take off from Milwaukee, and they'll fly a racetrack pattern here, and the jets will fly in behind them. We've all seen the airplanes, refuel. That's what's taking place out there. They've got a nice long rectangle, so they can just do this long racetrack pattern out there. So again, that's a restricted area out there. It is all encompassed in a military operations area. So even if the restricted area is not in operation, the military operation area may be in operation yet. So they may be doing other things. So again, that's all over the United States, but primarily in Wisconsin, we see a lot of the military operation areas there. Okay, alert areas are areas depicted on aeronautical charts with an A. So there are going to be it's typically areas of high volume of pilot training or unusual type of aerial activities. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's military in nature, but there may be a lot of activities there. Generally speaking, alert areas are associated with military, a lot of military traffic and stuff like that. All right. Controlled firing areas. This is an interesting one. So controlled firing areas are areas where they actually would be maybe launching rockets or something like that. They actually, it's not depicted anywhere on the sectional charts. How it works with the controlled firing area is they will have spotters on the ground, and if they see an aircraft that's in that area, wherever it is, maybe it's Area 51 or something like that, and they're doing some testing of a UFO or something like that. What they'll do is they'll tell the aircraft that's participating, the military aircraft that's participating, to hold off for a second and let the aircraft pass through. So you can actually enter in a controlled firing area. I mean, if you know that it exists there, they're going to be doing tests, you'd want to avoid it. But if you don't know and you enter that airspace there, they're just going to say hold off on any rocket launches or anything like that. So what's that?
So they know that they're going to let.
No, they wouldn't. Yeah, they definitely wouldn't. So, and then finally, we've got other airspace areas, and there's a bunch of different ones there. So you've got local airport advisory areas, military training routes. Those are actual routes that military aircraft use for training. So they'll do IFR training, and they'll also do VFR training. And they're VR routes and IR routes that they have on there. Let's see, I don't know here. I think out west there's a lot of training routes, military training routes there. So let me see if I can get over there. We've got Victor Airways, these light blue lines right here. Those are all Victor Airways. I don't know if you probably can't see that, but there's a right there we go. This right here is Victor 204. That's something that a general aviation pilot might use on there. So let's look for the training routes here.
If you go near Spokane,
Spokane has one.
I think yeah, we used to live under it, I think.
Oh gosh, where is that? I don't even know my geography that well. Spokane.
There.
We're around here, this area right here.
Oh, those class C's, I think.
What's that?
Right there, those class C's, probably right, isn't it?
Over here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, okay. I don't see any. They actually would be gray in color. Oh, here we go. Yep. There we go. There's a bunch of them right there. So let me zoom into this area right here. So this is on your Seattle sectional there, next to Spokane International, and there's two airports here they've got. But here you can see this is an IR route. That's an IFR training route, and it's the number designation is 324. And then you've got your VFR or VR route. So this is going to be a VFR training route, military training route. And you can see the color is different than your Victor Airways. We generally, I mean, you could, if you wanted to, I suppose you could use that. It would be really dangerous because it's a military training route. So you're going to have, especially an IFR route, these IR routes, the pilots that are flying those are not going to be concerned with traffic outside their cockpit. They're going to be focusing on practicing their instrument training maneuvers there. So, and same with the VFR stuff. They're going to be doing various maneuvers. So, and they can extend, right down to the ground. Some of those routes they actually practice on the earth flying and stuff like that. So, so those are military training routes there. All right. Yeah, parachute jumping operations. We've got several of them. I don't know. Yeah, there's one right there. This is just a little symbol. Now, I will point out on this sectional chart, there is an incredibly valuable piece of information on this chart, and it's located right on the outside of the chart. If you look right here, This gives you a list of all the symbols. It's just a legend of every single symbol you're going to see on a sectional chart. That I would get really comfortable with. I mean, read all the text on it, and learn about what all these different symbols mean, and all the different shaded, areas and things like that. They go over everything on the sectional chart. Every sectional chart that's printed has this. Now, most of the time, like if you fly, nowadays we generally don't fly with paper charts anymore. Vast majority of pilots fly with just like your smartphone or a tablet or both. So you still have to look this up, but it's on a regular sectional chart if you want to look it up. And these can be, you can download this information online from the FAA as well. Here, okay. So a couple other areas they have published VFR routes. I just show the Victor Airways terminal radar service areas. This is an interesting one. So terminal, and this is on page 15-4, terminal radar service areas. There's only 2 of them in the U.S. One is in Rockford, and I think the other is in Traverse City in Michigan. Those are different than your Class C airspace. I don't know if there's any question on the test on with a TIRSA or a terminal radar service. They call them TIRSAs. But just to give you an idea, let me just zoom out here and I'll show you what the TIRSA looks like in case you do get that question on the test. Here's Chicago right here. There's Rockford. There's Madison right there. I'm going to zoom into Rockford. All right. So you can see it's got the 2 concentric circles like Class C airspace, but it's gray. Do you see that right there? That's gray. It's like Madison. It's magenta. That's definitely Class C airspace. But Rockford has got this 2 gray areas. So how do you approach this? You can actually penetrate their airspace right here without contacting them. It's the participation with their radar facilities is optional for the pilot that's flying through there. Now, their Class Delta airspace, which is right here, that you do have to, get or hear back from them saying it's okay to enter their airspace. Not a clearance, but basically 2-way radio communications with them, which is the N number exchange, right? But here with a TIRSA, and again, there's only 2 of them in the U.S. Rockford is one of them, so again, we have to be aware of that. But the radar participation is optional for you. Normally, when you're going into that airspace, you're going to want to treat it. And if you really want to be safe, I would call out here and I'd say, hey, Rockford approach 264 Romeo is over Beloit, inbound landing Rockford or Cottonwood Airport, which is just north of here a little ways. And then they would give me clearance to land at that airport. Or not clearance, they would just say it's okay to land at that airport. So again, it's treated like Class C airspace. It's not as restrictive as Class C airspace, but it's it's just kind of a less restrictive version of Class C airspace. Just to give you an idea here too, this is some complex airspace. This is obviously Chicago O'Hare right here in the center. Lots of runways. There's the upside down wedding cake, the different sections, the circles, concentric circles around Chicago. There's the Mode C ring around Chicago right there. And then we've got this right here. This really makes it complicated. So this is Midway Airport, and it is busy. I've flown down there several times, and it's just crazy the amount of traffic coming in and out of there. This airspace is class. Well, anyway, know what class airspace would this be right here? It's Charlie airspace. What if I'm at, let's see, at 2,000 feet right here? Let's see, yeah, 2,000. That would be a tough one. Yeah, that's fair. So, okay, what if I'm at 2,000 feet right here? Am I in Class C airspace, Class B airspace, or some other class airspace? Okay, here, Class D. Okay, so let's look at this. So this right here, if you look at these numbers right here, this top number right here is the top ceiling of the airspace that this shelf is in right here. This section that we're looking at right here, it extends up to 10,000 feet. And the base of this area right here is 3,000 feet. So if I'm below that, that means I am not in class Bravo airspace. Okay. And if you look at each of these rings, these different segments here, here's another one right here. This you see the numbers there. There's 100, which is 10,000 feet. That's they lop off 100. So it would be 10,000. It would be 3,600 feet to 10,000 feet. So if I'm at 3,000 feet, I am not in this area right here. I am not in class Bravo airspace. Okay. If I'm above at or above 3,600 feet up to 10,000 feet, then yeah, I'm in class Bravo airspace. That's how you determine the dimensions of the airspace that you're in by, you know, looking at this two-dimensional image. You'll see these all over. So this is a good example right here. There's 3,000 right here, 3,000 to 10,000. 36, which is this is an outer ring right here, 3,600 feet to 10,000 feet. And again, 4,000 feet to 10,000. So each of these, as you go further away, the base of these rings increases. And that makes sense, right? It's an upside down wedding cake. So that the Bravo airspace is, you know, as we get closer to Chicago or O'Hare Airport, that is, it's going to, the controlled airspace is going to get lower, progressively lower until it's right at the surface like it is right here. And that's this number right here, this 100 over SFC. That means 10,000 feet is the ceiling of the class Bravo airspace, and SFC stands for surface. Oh, that's a good point. So on this particular map, they're actually showing us the TFRs, the temporary flight restrictions. So if I hover over this, there's a baseball game going on, a White Sox game going on down there. So they don't want aircraft flying in there. That's a temporary flight restriction area there, and they tell you, you know, details about it. Here's another one right here, and they have effective dates and times. So this one's on the 16th, May 16th, from 18 Zulu to 21 Zulu on the 17th. And again, that's from the surface to 1,500 or 15,700 feet. And this one right here, yeah, they give you all the details of it. So it's, you know, you have to look at the details for the TFR to see whether it's happening right now, if it's in the future, and then also the height restrictions on it there. So, okay.
Is it the height that you have to get?
Yeah, so here it'll say like that one begins at this time at 23:10 Zulu. Effective date is 5:10, so that would be tomorrow, right? Today's the 10th, right? So yeah, it would be today at 22:10 Zulu, and then it lasts until 3:10 Zulu on 5/11, or 5/11, which is actually tonight. Again, we're using Zulu time, so it's you know. So here, if you look just below the hand there, this part of the hand, it says SFC -3000 AGL. That's the vertical limits of the area there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So on the map, so is the why is the line?
The line between why is it hatched lines? Oh, that's just saying that that's the sectional that this is covering. So this only covers the Seattle area. If you look at your sectional maps, the front covers there, it's got a little hatched area around the sectional that is covering there. So this is a typical sectional map you're going to see there, and it would always highlight the various areas. And then it has the title for the maps. There's Seattle, Great Falls, Billings. Those are all different sectionals. And then for the Bear-Dells Airport, we're actually in the Chicago sectional area. Now, one good point to make here is you can go online to the skyvector.com. This will bring up all the sectionals and put it on a nice map. It's kind of like Google Maps for aviators. And you're going to see exactly what you're going to see on these sectionals. I would highly recommend that you get online and bring up SkyVector. It's US. I don't know. Yeah, I know it's going to show continental U.S. for sure, and it may show Canada and stuff like that. But you can do things like plan flights and stuff like that on here. It's a great resource. It doesn't cost anything, so very, very useful. Okay, so let's keep moving.
How do you plan to flight?
What's that?
How do you plan to flight a PHAK flight?
We'll get into that. Yep. So national security areas. Those are going to be, I don't know if they've talked, yeah, here we go. This is on page 15.7, that is. National security areas consist of airspace or defined vertical and lateral dimensions established at locations where there is a requirement for increased security and safety on ground facilities. So we're going to see that around, I guess like certain sensitive areas, military sensitive areas, things like that. We have national security areas. Let's go back to page 15-16. There's the TFRs, the temporary flight restriction areas. Again, as you as pilot in command are responsible for keeping track of all this stuff. When you plan a flight, you can't just go from point A to point B and assume that you're going to be flying in safe, it's okay for you to enter any airspace. You can't. So you have to be aware of all this stuff. And that's why the FAA is going to test you on all of these. They're going to ask you questions about, TFRs, how to read them. Is it active now? Is it going to be active in the future? Whatever. They want to know that you're safe when you get your pilot's license, that you can go up and safely navigate, the airspace there, and make sure that you're not going to, wander into the president or vice president speaking at an event. If you do enter a TFR, they actually are authorized to shoot you down. So obviously, it's like, okay, that will wake you up. But most of the time what's going to happen is they're going to fly by you. They have what they call intercept procedures, and you shouldn't be aware of those. They're going to fly behind you. They're going to try to get you to turn off to the right or left or something like that by flying in front of you. And we get into that a little bit later on. That's called intercept procedures. So again, that's to protect the U.S. and sensitive areas that we have around here. So again, TFRs are temporary flight restrictions, and they just pop up. They're temporary. They only last a couple of days. You've got let's say there's a Badger game or a Green Bay football game or something like that. They're going to put a TFR around it because there's a high concentration of people. They don't want a plane flying in there and causing problems there. So
Is there altitude?
yeah, there would typically be an altitude restriction for a TFR.
So for the White Sox game,
Mhm.
if you so 3,000 feet,
Mhm.
if you fly above 3,000 feet and you circle, could you watch the game? So
Technically you could. So this right here, the TFR says it's surface to 3,000 feet AGL. Okay. If we look at the class Bravo, so the next thing we have to worry about is, are we in class Bravo airspace? Because this is all over here. So class Bravo airspace starts at 3,600 feet in this area where this is, well, it starts at 3,000 feet here. So there's no way you'd be able to fly in this area right here. But here you might be able to, so it's 3,600 feet to 10,000. So if you stay below 3,600 feet, then you would go, here. But there's a big but here. 23, you see this where it says T? That's basically, you have to be talking either to Chicago Midway class or Charlie Airspace here, talking to their controllers there, or you have to be talking to the O'Hare controllers. And I can guarantee you, they will not want to talk to you. So if you fly to Chicago, your general aviation, small airplane, they do not have time for small planes. I mean, I shouldn't say that. When it comes to O'Hare and Midway, all they want to do is get traffic in and out. They don't want to have to worry about, recreational flights and stuff like that. They really want to make sure that, traffic is flowing in and out of those airports there. So along the coast here, Lake Michigan right here, yeah, they would, let you fly in there. Particularly if you fly below class Bravo airspace and stay out of class C, they're not going to want to, they won't bother you. But they really are, when you get to busy airports, like busy cities and stuff like that, their number one job is to safely get aircraft in and out of those airports. And they may talk to you, but they may not grant you, clearance to enter their airspace if you're just out doing sightseeing and stuff like that. Their job is to provide safe transport for all the aircrafts that are coming in and landing, taking off and landing, taking off. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is it possible for your license to be revoked because
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. They'll definitely talk to you. Now, sometimes it's an accident, and they understand that. But if there was any it was done intentionally, that's it. They'll probably put you on some sort of remedial training or something like that. It does happen if there's, let's say your engine conks out, and the closest airport is a military airport. I personally would land at the military airport. I'd tell them my situation and say, hey, look, I just lost my engine. You guys are the closest. I'm going to land at your airport. They're going to let me land. They're not going to shoot me down. Even if if the president was there, they probably would shoot me down. So I'd probably land enough field there. But I would tell them at least what's going on and say, hey, I just need to land, on the runway or something like that. They may say, no, not authorized or whatever, but I'm going to break the laws. Now, you can do that as the pilot in command. You can break the regulations to the extent to deal with the emergency that you're in. You still may have to deal with the consequences later on, and the FAA will look at it and they'll say, okay, well, yeah, your engine did quit and you did land in a military airport, but in this case, there's nothing going on. There was no deviations of other aircraft or anything like that. So we're going to let it slide. They'll let it go. But they may give you a stern warning. If, you're doing let's say you're doing, aerobatics or something like that when you shouldn't be, and your engine quits, you break part of a wing or something like that and land. Yeah, then they're probably going to say, yeah, you need to do some more training. We're going to hold your license for a little while so that you can't fly on there. So.
So another thing is, what if you're up in the air and
It's still your responsibility. Yeah, you're at fault if that TFR becomes active and you're in it. You're responsible. You should, as again, pilot in command, you need to make yourself aware of all of the things that affect that flight. So it's not if somebody did that, let's say that was their excuse. They said, well, it just came up all of a sudden. I would say you did not do your pre-flight planning. And so therefore you're in violation of the federal aviation regulations, and your license is going to get pulled until you do remedial training or something like that, because it's your responsibility as pilot command. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So there's requirements to enter these different types of airspace. So let's look at that. Let's see here. This is a different type of. There's a restricted area right there. Again, this is a military operations area, magenta, blue, restricted. This happens to be a warning area. That's blue hatch there. Again, there's another type of military operations area. Let's go through some of these here. There's a military training route there, IR 037. Okay, so let's take a look at the some of the minimums that you have to have for weather to enter into these space. Now, this you'll have to commit this to memory. There's no simple way of memorizing this stuff. You're just going to have to learn it and memorize it, because you are going to get quizzed on this on the exam itself. So basic VFR weather minimums. For Class A, again, you have to have an IFR. You have to be, again, an IFR flight plan. So, and again, we're talking about basic VFR, visual flight rule weather minimums here. So in Class A airspace, there is no VFR weather minimum, so it's not applicable. Class Bravo airspace, however, you need to have 3 statute miles of flight visibility, and you have to be clear of clouds. So that means you're going to be even fairly close to a cloud. If this is a cloud right here, I can fly right by it. That's, as long as I'm not in the clouds with my plane, I'm clear of clouds. Okay, it does not give you the reason or a way to dodge in and out of clouds. It's still not a good idea to do something like that, but you're clear of clouds. All right. So, but you need also 3 statute miles of visibility. So I need to be able to see 3 statute miles from my plane on the ground. That's very short. You'd be surprised. 3 statute miles may look fine on the ground, but 3 statute miles you won't even be able to see Devil's Lake from here. So it's a very short distance. And that's a very hazy. If I have a chance, I'll take you guys up sometime when we have lower visibility, like 3 statute miles. It's not very far. It's almost like flying in IFR conditions. But again, flight visibility has to be 3 statute miles, and you have to be clear of clouds. Class C airspace, if I wanted to fly down to Madison and I wanted to land at Madison, I need 3 statute miles of visibility, and I need 1,000 feet above, 500 feet below, or 2,000 feet horizontal from a cloud. So let me just draw this out so you can see it here. So here's a cloud here, and you need to be at least 1,000 feet above. So this is my plane right here. There's we're designed for a plane, but you get an idea. I need to be 1,000 feet above a cloud. I have to be 500 feet below any cloud. So this is 500 feet. And this would be 1,000 feet. So yeah, if you're getting this close to clouds, then you're pushing your luck. That's way too close. So, and you need 2,000. You need to be 2,000 feet horizontal from any cloud. So I can't be around. I have to have these separation distances when I'm entering in class Charlie Airspace. So the way I remember this, just remember it's in class Charlie Airspace. You're most likely going to see 3 Cessna 152s. Just write down 3152. That's a memory aid I use. So typically class C airspace, yeah, you'd see a lot of training aircraft. A Cessna 152 is a common training aircraft. So the 1 stands for 1,000, 5 is for 500, 2 is the 2,000. So again, it's 1,000 feet above cloud, above any cloud, 500 feet below. Now you may ask, well, why is it that you have to be 1,000 feet above a cloud, a distance from the cloud? And that's because jet aircraft can climb at extreme rates, like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 feet per minute, and they want to give the jets enough time to see you and avoid you. Okay, so that's why they want an aircraft in class C airspace to have at least 1,000 feet above the clouds there. Does that make sense? So again, use that memory mnemonic. So like 3 152, 3 152s there. Okay. So for class Delta airspace, again, we've got the same requirements. Look at this: 3 statute miles, 1,000 feet above, 500 feet below, and 2,000 feet horizontal. Class Delta, again, 3,000 statute mile, or 3 statute miles. 1,000 feet above any clouds, 2,000 feet below any clouds, or 2,000 feet horizontal. So you have, and I should say, you have to have that much separation between you and those clouds there in class Delta airspace. Now, if you can't maintain it, you have to get IFR clearance. And as a VFR pilot, you probably won't have your IFR rating right away. Eventually, you'll get it, and then you could actually enter these as long as you have a clearance, an IFR clearance. Just because I have an IFR ticket does not mean I can just fly into the clouds. I have to get an IFR clearance. I file an IFR flight plan and enter there. Okay. All right. So class Echo airspace. So there's 2 different types of class Echo. There's at or above 10,000 feet and less than 10,000 feet. We're obviously going to be dealing with less than 10,000 feet in this area. So again, at less than 10,000 feet, it's the same 3 152s. You've got 3 statute miles of visibility, 1,000 feet above, 500 feet below, and 2,000 feet horizontal. So again, 3 152s. Above 10,000 feet, the visibility in class Echo airspace is 5 statute miles, and 1,000 feet above, 1,000 feet below, and 1 statute mile horizontal. So does everybody know what an F-111 is?
Yes.
You ever heard of that? It's a jet aircraft. It's a military bomber, very fast. I don't know if they still make them, but let's see. So in any case, the memory aid I use for the at or above 10,000 feet for class Echo is 5. Oops. Let's see if I can get this right here. 5 F-11s. 1 1 1. Okay, so you're more likely to see an F-11 above 10,000 feet. So I say 5 F-111s, and again, the 5 stands for the 5 statute miles. The 1 stands for 1,000 feet. The first one. The other one is another 1,000 feet. That's the above, below, and then horizontal is 1 statute mile. Okay. So you've got 5 statute miles visibility, and then 1,000. You have to be 1,000 feet above clouds, 1,000 feet below clouds, and 1 statute mile horizontal distance there. Okay. And again, this is, I don't know if you'll see that question on the test, but they do expect you to know that. And again, these are basic VFR weather minimums. This doesn't have to do with IFR at all. This is what you have to know as a private pilot. Let's see. Okay. All right, Class G airspace. And again, what is Class G airspace controlled or uncontrolled? It's uncontrolled airspace. Okay, good. So there's a couple things we need to be aware of. Okay, so for Class G airspace, for airspace that's 1,200 feet or less above the surface, regardless of MSL altitude, they're saying during the day, you can have 1 statute mile and clear of clouds. So 1 statute mile is not much visibility. I mean, it's literally like flying in IFR conditions, but there may be days where you want to go up and practice your takeoffs and landings. And you're at the Bear Dells Airport. And it's, you know, it's maybe the visibility is like 1.5 miles or something like that. Well, the FAA doesn't want to restrict you from practicing your takeoffs and landings. And you're only within, you know, like a half mile, maybe a mile at the most of the airport. So you should be able to see it even with the visibility that low. So what they're saying here is, yeah, you can go out and fly and do your takeoffs and landings and clear, and as long as you're clear of the clouds and you've got 1 statute mile of visibility. Now, you could say, you could take that a step further and say, well, I want to fly down to Morey Field in Middleton, for instance, which is under the Class C shelf there in Madison. And that would be legal for you to do. Is it a good idea? Probably not, because that's a long distance. And if the conditions, the clouds get lower or something happens, you get trapped there, you know, you'd be in trouble there. You'd have to call Madison and say, hey, I'm lost or whatever. I need to get down, or file an IFR flight plan. Now, if you're an instrument pilot, you would just file IFR and then take off from Baraboo and land at Morey Field. But you could actually do that. Not a good idea, though. At night, so the visibility requirements goes up to the 3 statute miles. And again, the 3 152s is what we use there. So, oh, by the way, this 1 statute mile and clear of clouds, I call that 1 Coke. You can use that. That's a term I think that Rod Machado came up with that I thought was kind of clever. But essentially, 1 statute mile and COC, clear of clouds, that's what Coke stands for. You need 1 statute mile and clear of clouds. So again, if you think logically through this, yeah, 1 statute mile and clear of clouds, that makes sense when you're at a Baraboo type airport. It's a small airport. Whereas, you know, in some of these other airports, yeah, you probably should have more visibility. So 3 statute miles. So if you look at all the different types of flight visibilities, there's only 3 types. There's 1 statute miles, 3 statute miles, and 5 statute miles right there. So that narrows down what your options are for that. And then when you look from the cloud distances, you're going to see 152. There's 152. There's 111, 152, 152. You can see that again, 1,000, 500, 2,000. Here's again 111 right there. So there's not a lot of, they're not, changing all of these numbers for each different class of airspace. There's like categories essentially of them. So if you can kind of get that in your mind, how those work, it makes it a little bit easier. And there are systems for memorizing this. I think there's a pyramid system that they use that works really well for some people. I would go online and look for one that you could use as a memory aid. I just read over this thing, 1,000 times. Just try to memorize it and do my best to, figure out exactly what it is. You will guarantee you will get questions on this on the exam. So you're going to need to know what all these visibilities are and things like that. So let's see here. So and then Class G airspace, more than 1,200 feet above the surface, but less than 10,000 feet MSL. So let's see. So during the day, 1 statute miles, and again, 152s. At night, 3 statute miles, 152. So it's basically the same as at night here. Again, the least restrictive one is during the day, 1 statute mile, clear of clouds. That's, you can't get any more or any less restrictive than that right there. So, okay. And then more than 1,200 feet above the surface and at or above 10,000 feet. Okay, so this would be like in the mountainous areas. There's only a few of these in the US, so it's not something you can see very often, but this would be at an airport at a fairly high altitude here. They're saying you have to have 5 statute miles at 1,000 feet above, 1,000 feet below the statute miles. Okay, so that's a basic VFR weather minimum. Does everybody understand that? Any questions on that? Okay. All right, so the last thing that we need to have are the entry requirements for airspace. Yeah, here's some diagrams if you want. These are different things there. So let's see. That's better. Yeah. Okay, so this is on page 15.9. Time here. Okay. So 15.9. These are the entry requirements that you have to to enter the different airspace here. Again, class alpha airspace or A airspace, that's that big shelf that's above the whole US. You need an ATC clearance, which again, you need them to say you are cleared into class alpha airspace. And the only way for you to get that is if you're on an IFR flight plan. So again, VFR pilots are not going to be able to get into the class alpha airspace unless they've got special permission from the ATC. But usually you're going to have an IFR flight plan on file. Equipment, you have to be IFR equipped, and there's a series of pieces of equipment that you have to have on board the aircraft to enter class alpha airspace. And you need obviously a minimum pilot certificate. You have to have an instrument rating. So you'll have your private pilot's license, and then you'll also have an add-on this instrument rating. As a private pilot, when you get your private pilot's license, you do not have, that's not included in your private pilot's license. You have to earn that as an additional rating. Bravo airspace, again, busy airspace like Chicago, Minneapolis, New York, things like that. You need an ATC clearance. Again, AT is going to say 264 Romeo, you're cleared into class Bravo airspace. That's the clearance that you're hearing for. If they just say 2641 Romeo, stand by, that is not a clearance for class Bravo airspace. Okay, so you need a two-way radio, a transponder with altitude reporting capability, and you also need, they don't say it in here, but you need ADS-B out to enter class Bravo airspace. And if you don't know, ADS-B stands for Automatic Dependent Surveillance Broadcast, which is a new type of technology that we're using. I'll be real brief with this. In the old days, they had what they called transponders. Okay, so here's air traffic. This is a tower, a radar tower right here, and you've got your plane right here. So what would happen is the radar tower would be swinging around there, and when the radar beam hit this, the transponder in this plane, if it's turned on, it's going to send back what's called a squawk. So in the plane itself, I'll actually show it to you here. Let's jump on here. So this right here, let's go right there. That is a transponder. And see how it's got this 1200 in there? I could put in, a totally different number, 3, 4. This would be like an en route code. So that's that. When the radar sweep goes by that interrogator sweep goes by that aircraft, this aircraft is going to transmit that 3426 back to the radar facility. And what that tells the controller, they'll see it on a scope. It'll light up on the scope saying that's 3426. Out here flying north, they'll now know how it works. This is the way ATC has worked for decades. Even in World War II, they had this. They had the squawk, and I think they called it parrot or something like that. But in any case, they had squawk boxes or transponders in military aircraft, and that was so they could determine if a aircraft was hostile or friendly. If they didn't squawk, back to the facility or to another aircraft, they knew that it was an enemy aircraft. So it started really in World War II, but it really developed, during the course of the following decades. So now we have GPS, and that's where ADS-B comes in. GPS is amazing, right? So we see it in our phones, we use it in our phones. Well, now they've got transmitters, these ADS-B transmitters inside the plane. What'll happen is they get the GPS signal. They automatically figure out, okay, this is where I am precisely. These are my latitude and longitude. I'm at this altitude, I'm flying, you know, at this speed. It already knows that inside the aircraft. What happens is the ADS-B just sends out a blind signal to everybody in the area and to stations on the ground. They pick that up and they say, okay, well, this is 264 in Romeo. It's at, you know, it's at 10,000 feet and it's flying at, you know, precisely this many knots or whatever. It's just constantly automatically sending that information out, and then ATC is collecting it through ground stations. There's more to it than that, but that kind of gives you an idea of how it works. The great part about this is if you have, I've got an aircraft here that has ADS-B and I have one right here. These two can now see each other if they have ADS-B in, which is just a display of the different ADS-B signals. You can walk down, go down to Madison, and if you've got an ADS-B receiver, you can see all the traffic that's coming into Madison. And it looks like Madison, for the most part, looks like it's a pretty dull area, not a lot of traffic coming in. But on a Friday afternoon, it may not look busy, but I guarantee you it's going to look crazy on an ADS-B display. You're going to see all kinds of aircraft. I mean, it's just like a swarm of flies down there. You don't realize it even in the air because you know, air traffic control is, you know, maybe they're segmented, they're dealing with different areas of the sky. You may only be one area of Madison that you're working with the controller on, but you're going to have that display on that ADS-B display, and it's going to tell you all the other aircraft, where they're going, what their altitude is, if there's a conflict alert with them. So, yep.
So
Oh, it would be just insane. Yeah, yeah. I would highly recommend doing that if you can. You would just, you know, you can build these ADS-B receivers. They're dirt cheap. I think you can buy them for like maybe $90 to $100, just a little tiny box. They've got little antennas on them. You can plug them into your computer. You don't need any cell coverage or anything like that. Hook it up to a computer and you can instantly see all the aircraft that are in your area. They're all transmitting. That's what's so great about ADS-B. It's not reliant on a radar sweep across the wing. So that's called the secondary, by the way. So if I got a radar antenna right here, I send out a signal. It's this aircraft sends back its squawk code. Let's say it's 3426. It comes back to the radar facility. That's called a secondary response, I believe. The primary is just the reflection of the aircraft. It's just saying that, oh yeah, there's a big metal piece out there. I don't know what it is, but there's something that's reflecting radar energy, and I'm seeing it on my scope as I look at it.
Is it legal and possible to build?
Absolutely, yeah, it's totally legal, and it's a very good. I've built several of them myself. They're I think Stratux is the name of it's an open source project. It's called Stratux, not Stratus. Stratux. And you can order the parts from Amazon. They've got a kit you can build. And if you're savvy enough, you could go out and buy the parts, you know, yourself and just, you know, assemble it yourself. But they have all the software to do it and everything. And it's great because, again, you can take it anywhere and see what's going on there. All right, let's see what else.
Flight radar 24.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Flight radar 24. Yeah. Flight radar.
I don't know. I haven't heard of that. And maybe that's, yeah, I'd have to ask me afterwards. Yeah, I'll take a look at that. We'll see what that is. I'm not sure. It could be a different type of radar than here. So, all right. All right. Any questions on airspace at all? We flew through it really fast. Again, you guys are gonna have to read up on this to really kind of understand, you know, airspace. But that's essentially in a nutshell what airspace is and what we have to deal with there. So. All right, why don't we go ahead and take a 10-minute break, and then we're going to dive into navigation. Okay.
Color blindness. Color blindness reading this chart.
I'm sorry, what's that? Sorry.
Color blindness reading this chart.
Yes, yeah, you have to know the difference between blue and magenta, and that can be tough for some people. You know, what's that? Is it? Do you have any glasses that might be able to help?
No, they don't, because it's red, green, color blindness.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Blue and that red.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah, it'll be tough. You have to. What I would do is, you know, ask Theo. Does he have a little bit of color blindness?
I don't know.
Well, you'll find out, if you could say, so on the aeronautical chart, sorry, Sam, just 1 second here. So,
Back here.
so there's so there's these
I
are
see
all
the
the colors.
difference, but
Yeah.
I have to like really pay
Yeah.
attention to see it.
Yes, so this is blue, obviously, and that's magenta. So if you can kind of distinguish between those two colors, that's gonna go a long way. And
I can, but when they're cross-hatched together like that, like,
It's really tough. Uh-huh. It's hard to see. Yeah, it's yeah.
It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah,
Alright.
see if you can, work through that, and because obviously it's not a showstopper. You could get a waiver to get past that. But you want to, when you go in for your test, your flight physical, they're going to give you a hard test on there, and I think they just updated it recently too, so they would have some things that I have to go through down here. So, Sam, do you have a question? What's that?
It
Oh,
is.
the plane's flying.
He's gone. Yeah, he left. Yeah. He was storing here for a while, so that come through.
What's your plan is that?
I think it's a 182. I can't tell. It looks like a 182. It could be a 172. Yeah, so it's a 182. Yeah, those are great things. Store a lot. All right.
And then just you start a box come out of the building. No. I can have those notes of the engineer. But this say I noticed it should do the wrong. Yeah, that is problem. I don't know. Or just he just shows it. On the street at that floor. Read it yet? Yeah, one single question. 12 miles. Dallas Airport. I see the subscription. I'm like, well, really make a map for us. It's like it's hard. It's so long. Like 7 months. That's for sure. Oh, yeah. No, this is like 1, 2. Yeah, three. No, so Jackson. So finish people miss out. They're like, Jack. So later. You go see it. Is that illegal? It's not weapons, defenses. Yeah, probably not. I don't pay, and then you're like, and then you have your hair and if I don't. Then you get one, yes, especially you touch. No, you touch. Inside of you press your button to get.
So is there a class next week, Joe?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have another class just to touch up on some things. If anybody has questions on weight and balance, there's a couple of problems in there that people were having. A lot of people were questioning on weight and balance, so I'd like to visit that again. It'll be, you could just stay for as long as you want.
Yeah, why don't we? One.
That'd be the week after that. And the thing is, all my plans right now are in the shop. So they were supposed to win. One of them was supposed to be done this last week, and they found some issues with it. So they're dealing with that. There's a possibility it might be done by the time we do the flying. Otherwise, we may have some other guys come in and do flights. But when mine are done, I can schedule time with you guys to go up and fly individually, which I would highly recommend. When we do the group flights with everybody, everybody is going to have to jump in the plane, whether they sit at the co-pilot seat or pilot seat, is just luck of the draw. So you may actually get, flying the plane, but you'll be sitting in the back seat. If you fly with me, you'll be sitting in, beside me, and I'll be, I can work with you guys individually. But we have to schedule it out in the future sometime. So it's, if you don't mind waiting, I would do it that way, because I could actually file it. We could actually log it as a lesson. But you have to wait. That's the problem.
So after this class, when do we get our student license?
So we have to, all of you guys will have to schedule a time with me to sit down. I've got to go through a whole series of steps to make sure that, everything gets filed properly. The FAA is extremely sticky about accuracy. I mean, and rightfully so, because there's a lot of issues with what they've learned over time is that, if it's not filed correctly, it's better for them to deny it, prevent you from getting, they don't deny you your student pilot's license, but they'll just reject it. And then you have to go through a process again to get it done. So, we sit down, I'll tell you, these are the things that you want to have if you have a passport. You have to have ID, photo IDs and things like that. Those are all things that we'll talk about in the meeting. And then we'll probably schedule 2 meetings, actually. One to gather all the information, make sure you do everything right. You're gonna have to go online and register online. And you want to be 100% certain that you're filing everything 100% right. Because if you get just one thing wrong on it, they're going to reject it, and you're going to have to go through that process again. So you want to make sure you get everything right, and then we'll do another meeting. I'll sign you off. There's some other things we have to go, legal things that we have to go through. And then probably within 2 to 4 weeks, you'll get your student pilot card as just a regular certificate. It looks like you've seen it before. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll have that.
One of
and
my
then,
friends, she's getting her VFR
Mhm.
right now.
Mhm.
She has like 20-something hours.
Okay. Mhm.
It looks exactly like a driver's license.
Yeah. Yep. It just doesn't. I wish they had the photo ID on there. It'd be kind of nice to actually see it, but they're not doing that yet. So
If you took the test, because then you did the test, right? The ground school.
the actual knowledge exam.
Yeah.
Talk about the FAA knowledge exam. So yes, that would be down in like Middleton. If you live here around Madison, you could go to Middleton to take the exam there.
And that's to get your student license?
That's for your knowledge portion of the test. So there's 2 parts to your to get a private pilot license. You take 2 tests. There is the knowledge test, which is you go down to Madison, you take the test there. That's where they have a proctor sitting there, and they make sure that you're not cheating and stuff like that. But basically, you could bring in a E6B slide rule like this. You can bring in your flight plotter. Nothing else. No cell phones, no computers, no nothing else. They give you a pencil and some paper to write on, and then you sit down. You answer 60 questions in 2 hours, and at that point they grade it. If you have a passing grade, then your knowledge portion is done. Now the other test is the practical test. That's where you're going to sit down with a real examiner. That's going to pilot examiner that's going to ask you questions. They're going to, usually this can go anywhere from, an hour to 3 hours. Typically they're around 3 hours long. So they're going to ask you a bunch of questions just to kind of see what knowledge you have of aviation and if you're going to be a safe pilot. And then they take you up in a real plane, the one that you provide for them, and you demonstrate your flight skills to them. Doing like turns, steep turns, stalls, things like that, landing, takeoff, short field takeoffs, things like that.
Practical.
The practical you'll do at the end of your flight training. Yeah, yeah. For your private pilot test. Yeah. So you'll put in probably, well, the average is like 60 to 70 hours that it takes most pilots to get their pilot's license. But if you can focus on it and get it done in a real short span of time, let's say you start your training on June 15th. If you could fly every single day, you could definitely get it in 40 hours. I've had two students now that have done it exactly at 40 hours of flight time. But you have to be 100% committed. No other issues. You don't have to worry. You don't want to worry about work, no sports, no nothing. You're just doing aviation only. If you could do that, you could get it done in a month's time. And it's really good for you because you're not spending, 3 hours this week and maybe 2 weeks later you're doing another hour or something like that. Students that do it that way, and for whatever reason they have life issues or whatever, they things that they can't commit that much time to it. They may extend their flight training out over the course of a year or sometimes even years to get their private pilot's license because they can't remember what they learned last time or whatever. They have to relearn it and whatever. So if you could focus on it for like just a month, just do 100% of flight training, you'll get it in again a real short time. You'll save money. It's better for you because all of that stuff is in your memory, in your mind as you do each flight lesson. The other thing to consider there is your instructor. They have to be available to do that. So you'd want to talk to them ahead of time to make sure that they're going to be available to fly with you every single day.
I mean,
oh gosh, so Carl's one of the instructors here. There's Mauston. They've got instructors up there. Vonda is one of them. I think they've got 2 others up there. I know there's other instructors in Baraboo.
Didn't Brian Kimball's girl just do that down in Florida?
Oh, Ashley?
Yeah.
No, she got her private pilot's license up here.
No, but somebody just paid her to go down and fly with.
Oh, yes.
Every day in Florida.
Yes, yeah, and she's up in
It was her
Mauston.
sole job.
Yeah, she's up in Mauston as well right now too. So she is teaching and she's taking students. So and she would probably be one of those that would say, yeah, I'll work with you as much as possible. So
Well,
like I said, they
that's
know.
what she just did. Like they went to Florida because the conditions could be better every day to fly.
Yes, yeah, that could be. Yeah, I don't know. I know. I do remember she said she was going to Florida. She just called me a couple weeks ago, such that she's back and she's ready to take students. Though, so she's one of those that would fly like every single day if she could. She wants to go corporate route there, so she wants to fly jets, which is really cool. She'd be a good pilot. She'd great for her.
So there's no.
Hey guys, I'm sorry, Sam. Can we tell those guys in the back there to come back in whenever they're ready? We've got to get back at this. So,
Is there any correlation between flights like extended safety periods and like a 1 month intensive versus stretching out the training?
So it's beneficial, more beneficial for you to do it in like 1 month if you can, or maybe 2 months. Just because all of that knowledge is going to be fresh in your head. When you extend it out, like over like years or a year or several months, you're going to have to relearn things. Because if you're flying every single day, I'm not saying you fly all day, you just do 1 lesson per day or maybe 2 lessons, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. You have to pick a time when your brain functions the best. If you're a morning person, do your flight training in the morning. If you're a night person, do it toward the evening, but you have to, those are like personal decisions you have to work out with yourself and obviously the instructor that you have there. But yeah, it's better to do it in a shorter span of time than it is a longer span of time. Again, the problem there is that not all of us have the luxury of taking off work or taking a time away from sports or family or whatever. So we have to span it over like several months. You're going to spend more time in it, just guaranteed. It's you're instead of like 40 hours now, you're going to be pushing 60, 70, maybe even 100 hours, and that's expensive. It's not cheap to rent an aircraft. They cost more.
Right now,
Yep. Yeah.
To like the 40 hours, but it's
Well, you could calculate it out. It depends on how much you're paying for the rental of the aircraft, and there's two different ways of going about, renting an aircraft. You can join a club, and usually there's like dues, monthly dues. Reedsburg has got a club. They've got instructors over there too. But if you join their club, they may only charge like 100, 125 an hour for an aircraft. That's just for the aircraft rental. Then you have the flight instructor, and they charge anywhere from $30 to $60 for the instructor. Now keep in mind that the FAA only requires that you have an instructor for 20 of those hours, but realistically, you're going to want to have an instructor for probably closer to 30 hours, or it depends on how fast you're going through it. You get by with 20 of those hours just being a flight instructor, having a flight instructor on that rental. You'll always pay for the rental of the aircraft though. So you're always going to have, $100, $200 an hour for rental aircraft rental. So 40 hours times, 100 is going to be 4,000 bare minimum for the rental of the aircraft. And then probably another, 2,000 for the flight instructor, bare minimum. So you're at right now, just again, these are just rough figures. You're going to be about $6,000 to get your pilot's license, and that's if everything goes smoothly. Usually it doesn't, so you're probably better off planning on closer to $10,000 for it. Again, if you're flying a Cirrus, the new version of the Cirrus, the Gen 6s, it's going to go up like 4 times that much. It's going to be closer to 25,000. But you can get your license for $6,000 if you really like get in a club. They've got a Cessna 152. They're not the most comfortable aircraft. They're like this when you're sitting in them, but they are great training aircraft, and they don't cost much because they're just little tiny things and small engines. Absolutely. Yes. That if you have the resources, definitely buy your own aircraft if you can. Because you can always get your money out of it later on and sell it. The Cessna 150s I've got one. That's the one I would use for training and stuff like that. But that it would be, if you shop around, especially a good mechanic, they can help you find one. And then you want to do a pre-purchase inspection and stuff like that. So there's a lot more to it. So, but if you get to that point, let me know, and I'd be happy to talk with you guys and get you in touch with some A&Ps and people that know. Yeah, there you go. So it's creative thinking like that will can get you your pilot's license a lot quicker. So yeah. Okay, so chapter 16, navigation. Let's jump on this and get this thing going here. So aeronautical charts. So if you want to at home, if you guys, I don't know if you ordered yours, you can order them online. I sent out a constant contact a while back for the links to order these. If you want to from home, if you guys do want these, you can come to the Baraboo Dells Airport and you can pick these up here. They're right behind my desk here in the hangar. The staff out here is aware of it. You can pick it up, no cost, doesn't cost you anything. Otherwise, you could just order them online on Amazon. For the rest of you that are here, everybody should have one of these. Does everybody have a sectional? Is anybody who doesn't have a Seattle section? You don't have one? Okay. Do you have one at home? Okay. So I tell you what, I'll loan you one for today, and then if you could just leave here, just bring it back to me. Okay, so yeah, let's just before you actually open these, let's just talk a little bit about the outside of them. So this is what one side. If you turn it over, this is one side right here. You see that? If you look at the top of this, if you have everybody just put it right in front of you and look at it like this right here. At the very top, you're going to see an upside down word. It's going to say south. Do you see that on the upper left-hand side of the chart? Everybody see that? It says south. It's upside down, and you see north on the right side there, and that's right side up. So if you want to look at the north side of the chart, just keep it like this. You just would drop it down like this and open it up. If you want to view the south side of the chart, turn it around like this, okay, and then just basically flip the chart open, and now you're going to see the. Look at it like this here. So you want to so if I want to open it up the south side, I have to look at it like this. So I'm reading this south right here is on the bottom, and you can see I'm reading it's right side up. Now I can just drop it down like this, and I'm going to open it up to the south side of the chart. So this, if you look at the outside of the chart label itself, where it says it's got Seattle, you can see that Seattle's on the upper portion of the chart, and Portland is on the south side of the chart. Did you want a section? You're good. Okay, sure. So the lower half of the chart, Portland is in the lower half of the chart. So if you want to open up to see Portland, what I would do is I'd hold it in front of me and I'd say, okay, I'd turn it over so I could see that south is right side up here like this. And then I would open it like this and then open up this side right here. And now I can see Portland. That's just a simple minor thing, but you'd be surprised in a cockpit when you're busy. Sometimes you're doing this and you're going, oh, yep, we're going to turn this over and then turn it around and stuff like that. That takes time and it's distracting for pilots. So you should know how to open a sectional up. All right. So let's see. So there's several different types of aeronautical charts. This is known as the sectional chart right here. There's also a VFR terminal chart. Those would be like expanded areas for like Chicago, Seattle, or something like that. They're going to give you a lot more detail. And then there's also the World Aeronautical Charts. Those are, the details are much less than what you'd see in a sectional chart. We've got a lot of detail in the sectional. The sectional chart is typically what most of us are going to use. Again, this is a printed chart on, you know, like if you have something like 4 flights, they're going to have, you know, charts. Whoops. They're going to have charts on here. I'll see if I can bring it up here. Okay. So they're going to have charts. You can actually change the colors of the charts there. It's basically the same thing. It's a VFR chart, but I also bring up IFR charts on this. Back in the old days, this is all we had. So if you were flying across country, you would have several of these. And you could see, like if I wanted to fly from Wisconsin to Seattle, I would need, let's see, well, at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sectional charts I'd have to carry with me. And then to be on the safe side, I'd probably want to have all the ones that are south of that route in case I get, you know, diverted to a airport south of it. So now you're carrying, you know, like 12 charts. And these have to stay updated. You can't fly with this aircraft in an aircraft. You would get in big trouble if there was an incident. Let's say they wouldn't know necessarily that you're flying with outdated chart unless you tried calling let's say an airport where the frequency had changed or something like that. They don't want you flying with expired, you know, navigation charts and things like that, right? And it's a big deal for the FAA, especially if you have an incident. They're going to check to make sure that you were flying with you know, current charts. It's something you hear a lot. Okay. Again, nowadays we rely heavily on this, but you as a student pilot, you need to use these. So you're going to actually have a Chicago sectional, and you're going to use that for your flight planning. If you do a long cross-country flight, you're going to plan the flight using probably, you know, Chicago and a Green Bay sectional, and they have to be current. All right. Let's see. All right. So again, sectional charts are the most common charts used in aviation. They have a scale of 1 to 5. 1 inch equals 500 inches on here in real life. So 1 inch to 500 inches in real life, or 6.86 nautical miles per inch on here.
1 to 500,000.
1 to 500,000, yeah. So 1 inch on here equals 500,000 inches in real life. Okay. So if I was like, if I measured, let's say an inch from here, from Baraboo to Devil's Lake, let's say it was an inch there, it would be 500,000 inches to Devil's Lake. Yep. Yeah. Where you have to show me what you're looking at there. Let's see. Let me just bring up a chart here. So this is in Seattle, you're saying? Yep. It's going to be on the north side of the chart. So I'll open up the north side. And so there's dotted lines there. Well, okay, you guys tell me, is there any place we can go to find out what Donnie's talking about there? Is there any I'm sorry? A wilderness area? Is it like a reserve or something like that? Oh, in dots? Yes, okay. Perfect, yeah, thanks, appreciate that. Okay. Oh, yeah, they actually do, yeah, Boulder River Wilderness Area, there's one. They actually do identify them. It's they're blue. So the outline is, if you look on your sectional charts, it'll be a solid blue line with dots, and they will typically label it. So I see a Henry M. Jackson Wilderness Area, but it's in blue. So, all right, let's see. Thank you.
So is that considered a training area?
No. That would be an area where they generally don't want you to fly close to the ground to disturb the wildlife. Yeah, so they and that would be like a, gosh, I don't know if that would be considered like a other type of airspace, I guess.
We're looking for clear water. Sorry.
Is it
Okay.
south?
So let's get back to the chart itself though. Let's so the VFR terminal area charts, again, those have a slightly lower scale. Those are going to be 1 inch equals 250,000 inches in real life. So again, if 1 inch is 3.4 nautical miles on a terminal chart, which again, this is a sectional chart. A terminal chart might be, they may have a terminal chart for Minneapolis or Chicago, and that's for when you're flying in VFR into Chicago or Minneapolis or something like that, and you want to see more detail. You could fly into Chicago with just a regular sectional chart, or Minneapolis. You don't have to have the terminal charts, but if you want to have the details on it, you would use the terminal chart. World aeronautical charts are even less detail, but they're great for planning long cross-country flights. Hey guys, let's try not to be messing with the charts, because I think it's hard for the people in the back to hear. So we'll actually open them up. Preet and Janelle are going to walk around and help us out, so you guys understand how to use the charts here. So, all right, latitude and longitudes on the chart. So let's take a look at this. Let's actually use Baraboo as an example, just because we're familiar with the Baraboo area. So again, this right here is Madison. Here's Milwaukee over here. And Baraboo is, let's see, I believe right here. It's this kind of Mickey Mouse looking area here. It's like an upside down Mickey Mouse right here. That's how I identify it. So, all right. So there's the Baraboo Airport. We're right here. We're at the tip of that pointer right there. All right. So so one of the things you're going to see on these, and let me see if I can zoom in so you can actually see this. It might be hard to see. I'm losing my internet connection again here. There we go. All right. So does everybody see this black line with these little tick marks on it? Do you see that? Okay. So this horizontal line, you're going to see periodically on those charts, they're actually lines of latitude. Okay, so if I just, and again, these charts are extremely congested. There's a lot of stuff on here, but if you look carefully, you're going to find along these lines, you're going to see a number. It would be in black here. Actually, on a sectional chart, which we will go to in a second, you'll actually find it on the edges of the chart. They'll have the latitude number. But let's see here if I can find it. Maybe it's down here. Here we go. Okay, so here's down by Mount Horeb. You see this right here, 43 degrees. All right. So that line right there is 43 degrees north latitude. Okay. Latitude lines extend around the world, like this. If this is the planet right here, latitude lines go around like this. Above the equator, they're positive. Below the equator, they're negative. Or above the equator, they're north. Below the equator, they're south. So this would be considered 43 degrees north latitude, because we're in the northern hemisphere, right? Then there are lines of longitude. Okay, this right here is, see, it says in black letters 90 degrees. That's 90 degrees west longitude. So the prime meridian, does anybody know where the prime meridian is? Let's get a guess. Who said? Anybody say anything? What's that? Oh, what did you say? Greenwich. Yep, Greenwich, England. So it's just outside of London. So if you go to London, you can go to the Royal Observatory, and it runs in the backyard there. You can stand in both hemispheres, the east and west hemisphere at the same time. It's a great place to tour. So in any case, but you can go there. That's the prime meridian. That's 0. Okay. So anything to the west of that, we say west longitude. Anything to the east of that is east longitude. Okay. So in the equator, we do the lines of latitude. They run parallel to the equator, right? So latitude lines run like this. Anything north of the equator is north latitude. Anything south of the equator is south latitude. So that's what we use. All of that stuff is referenced to true north and true south, right? So you've got the Earth rotates on the poles, okay? That's what we use. Those lines of longitude, they go right up to the North Pole, the actual true North Pole. Not the magnetic North Pole, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. Magnetic North Pole is constantly shifting. There's no guarantee that it's going to be the same location tomorrow. And frequently, it does move a huge distance, like several feet in a single day. It shifts around. That's just because of the magnetic core of the Earth, and we'll get into that later on. We talk about compasses. All right. So again, lines of latitude, lines of longitude. Now, if I zoom out here, you'll see all of these latitudes and longitude lines. They're everywhere on the map. So this is how I can say to you, or if I want to, let's say, go from this airport, Tri-County Regional, which is Lone Rock Airport, I could communicate that to somebody. I would say, all right, so we would look at the lines of latitude here. So to determine where that airport is, would first look off of the nearest latitude line, and here it's 43 degrees right here. So this line right here, this line of longitude or latitude, I'm sorry, is 43 degrees. So that gets us close to it. And then we now need to get to the fine distance. So if I go, you'll notice here, if I look, and it's gonna be hard to see here, I'm gonna do my best to do this. So we've got 43 degrees right here. So this is 43 degrees right in this area, right? This line right here is 43. Each one of these additional tick marks right here, those are minutes of latitude. So this is 43 degrees right here. This line is 43 degrees. This is 43 degrees and 1 minute. 40 degrees and 2 minutes. 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 10 right there. 11, 12, 13, roughly 13. So this is at 43 degrees north latitude, and what does it say, 12 minutes, 13 minutes there. So those subdivisions there are, those divisions are in minutes, okay? So that gets us down to fairly close. It's not super precise, but it gets us close to where that airport is. Now, the other thing is to find out exactly where this airport is, to identify this to another pilot, and say I want to communicate this airport, and let's say he didn't have a map or she didn't have a map, I could give them the coordinates on Earth. So I would say, okay, well, go to 43 degrees north, 12 or 13 minutes. 43 degrees, 12 minutes, that is north latitude. And that would take them to this line up here. But it doesn't tell them what the longitude is. So now we got to figure out the longitude. So here is 90 degrees right here. And again, what we would do is we count off the minutes here. So we count 1, 2, until we get to line right, like roughly right here. So I can see here that the large tick mark, that's 10 minutes right there. It's 11 minutes. So that would put us right there. If I gave them the coordinates, let's see, 90 degrees and 11 minutes west longitude, and 43 degrees, 12 minutes north latitude, you're going to find this airport. That's how navigation works. We use that across the world. That's how ships navigate. They use the lines of latitude, longitude. We've used it for hundreds of years. We figured that out a long time ago, and we now know, okay, well, this is how we can map stuff on Earth. We can get super precise by using seconds. So there's degrees, minutes, seconds, and then even subseconds. So you can get super precise, which is what GPS uses. I would never I would never want to communicate to you. She said, well, let's say you hit like a box somewhere on the field out here. You'd have to give me very precise, coordinates to it, including it would be, degrees, minutes, and seconds, and probably sub-seconds in order for me to find a little box that you placed at the airport someplace here, let's say. Okay. But the whole point here is that that's how we use, these maps to navigate. We use latitude, longitude, and this is based, again, really important. Latitude, the longitude lines always go up to true north, not magnetic north. It's a really important point to remember. Yep.
When you're counting up in the northern hemisphere, you count minutes going up.
Yeah, minutes are always up. So again, in the northern hemisphere, you're always increasing. So it's, below us is latitude 42, which is going to be, let's zoom out here. Let's see if I can find a latitude line. Here, yeah, here's 42 degrees. That's close to Chicago right there. It almost runs right through O'Hare there. 40 degrees north latitude right here. And again, it's still 90 degrees. Longitude runs pretty much right by Baraboo here. Let's see, and then notice here. So this is for this line right here that goes across there on the sectional. That's the 42 degrees right there. If I go up to the 43 degrees, it's up here. But notice there's one in between here. Okay, so there's that's important to know. But 42 degrees is right here. 30 degrees up, you're going to see another latitude line, but it's not going to have any numbers on it. That's halfway between 42 and 43, which is up here. Okay. These are what we call quadrangles. So this is like a quadrant right here. It's, you've got a latitude and longitude. It's bounded by latitude and longitude, basically 30 minutes, 30 minutes, and 30 minutes, or 30 minutes and 30 minutes is on either side. 30 minutes of latitude and 30 minutes of longitude. So you've got this area, this block in there. Okay. Does everybody understand that? I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you. Any questions on that? That works. It has to do with the Earth's rotation, and you guys can explain this better than I can. It's like yeah, and it has to do again. It's because it's in degrees, right? It's a circle that we're dealing with. If it was a box, if we were a box, it would be a different type of measure. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so nice having master's students in the back here. Thank you. Are you guys still master's students, or are you actually? Oh, PhDs. Oh my God, sorry. So yeah, and there it's actually what are your majors? Oh gosh, yeah. So like way beyond me. So it's like perfect. All right, thank you. All right, so latitude, longitudes, meridians, and parallels. So the latitudes and longitudes are also known as meridians and parallels. The meridians are the longitude lines of longitude, right? I believe here. Let's see. Well, normally just going to refer to latitude and longitude lines. So again, longitude are vertical north and south, and latitude lines are run east and west. Okay. Great. Does that answer your question? Okay. All right. So they do have. Let's see if I can bring this up here. Oh, here we go. So this is a simplified diagram. Basically, here's the globe of the Earth. The prime meridian, you can't really see it, but there's Spain right there. There's the UK right there, and roughly in that area is where Greenwich is, in that area, and that's the prime meridian, called the prime meridian, which is 0, essentially. And as we go further to the west, toward the U.S., it's degrees longitude west, and here's the equator, degrees latitude north, degrees latitude south on this side right here. Okay. And that's how we can figure out where we are in the earth. You know, I can say, okay, well, Brazil is, you know, roughly 45 degrees west longitude and 30 degrees south latitude. Yeah. I probably, you know, because the UK was a state, you know, a seafaring nation, and they really needed to have it to navigate. They were trying to, you know, expand their empire, and so they paid, you know, these huge awards to figure out ways to improve navigation and stuff like that. So the UK basically said, yeah, it's us. We're doing this, so we need to have it for reference. So what's that?
The Academy of Wales.
I think so. Yeah. If I don't know, maybe the Greenwich, the Royal Observatory in Greenwich. If you ever go there, it's a really cool place. They've got a lot of history there, but they talk about precise timekeeping and stuff like that. But I think that's part of it. I think actually that's right. Just south of it is the Royal Academy. That's right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And the 90 degrees west is actually marked on Reedsburg's Main Street.
Oh, is it really? I did not know
There's a
that.
flagpole at a monument that says you are now crossing a little like.
I
almost
never noticed
headstone.
that. Okay, I'm gonna have to look for that next time. That's cool. Yeah. So you guys, if you guys do happen to find yourself over in Reedsburg on May Street, there is a 90 degrees west longitude sign there on somewhere on the street there. It's got a little
Right
flag.
before you crest the hill into downtown.
Okay, right before the
So
hill.
I
and the
think
down-
it says it's like 220 feet from this point or something.
Mhm.
Like that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, cool.
Seems like also I mean, was not as noticeed.
No, no. The time zones are more political than they are based in geography. So, and in so much so, I mean, like you've got like Phoenix, I think they have their own time zone. I think there's someplace like in Indianapolis or something like that. They have their
Some
own.
places. Indiana doesn't recognize daylight savings time.
Yeah, yeah. There's some of them that are so you have to go through like 3 time zones basically to get to their time zone. So it's just very confusing. So yeah, but in any case, but we do have time zones that we have to contend with. So those are going to be here. So again, as pilots, we're going to be using Zulu time. Does everybody remember what Zulu time is? Anybody tell me in it succinctly? Yeah, it's always the time in Greenwich, England. It's always the time at the prime meridian or the where basically zero latitude or longitude is. So that's prime meridian, that's Greenwich Mean Time. So that's why we call it Greenwich Mean Time. It is the time that is there, regardless of where you're at. I could be in Chicago, I could be in LA, and if it's 12 o'clock in Greenwich, England, it's 12 o'clock Zulu time in Los Angeles, Australia, or whatever. It's always that same time. Okay. All right. So we do deal with time zones. You know, obviously we have to deal with it for, you know, when we land, you know, we're going to be dealing with people there and stuff like that. These are all things that we have to work with. As pilots, again, we're going to be dealing with Zulu time, not so much time zones on there. But this is a map that just shows the various time zones. They don't show everything here, but it gives you an idea of the different ones. And again, there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just people in that area said, well, we want to be in the Eastern time zone. We want to be in the West or the Central time zone on there. So, okay. Another thing you're going to be dealing with a lot is a compass rose. So when on the maps that you look at, you'll see compass roses around BOR stations. Remember, I think we talked about that last week or the week before. Let's see if I can bring it up here. So compass rose is nothing more than 360-degree circle. But what's important here is where does the 0 point to on that 360 degrees?
True.
So, okay, how many people say true north for the VORs? How many people say true north? How many people say magnetic north? Not sure. Everybody's not sure. Okay, so for VOR compass rose, it's always magnetic north. Okay, I know it seems weird, but and there's a reason for that. So for a VOR, they always point to true north. And if you look at it, it's not this isn't a good area to demonstrate it in because we're almost in line with magnetic north, and the magnetic north pole and the true north pole almost line up precisely above us when we look to the north here. But let me show you this. This will really give you an idea of the difference between magnetic and true north. So I'm going to go over to, let's get into New England. So let's go to Maine or someplace like that. Here we go. Let's go right up here, most extreme. All right, so let's take, first off, let's look for our lines of latitude and longitude. So there's a line of longitude right there. Okay, here's another one right here. So let's look for a VOR. Okay, so here's a longitude line right here. That's, again, that goes north-south to the true North Pole. Look at this VOR station right here. Look at where it's pointing. That's 0 right there. That's pointing to magnetic north. And see how much of an angle it is right there? Okay, that's called magnetic variance. And we'll get into that a little bit later on. That's really important in navigation. We need to know the difference between true north and magnetic north. But you see how the difference there? It starts right here. That line goes right here. That's a huge angle right there. And indeed, on the maps here, we can actually look for that. Here it is. This magenta dashed line right here. This is a variance line, and it's 16 degrees west. So that's 16 degrees off of true north. This magnetic north is at this location right here. Okay, that's a magnetic variance line right there, and you'll see them on sectionals. You'll see them on these sectionals here. We'll open up and try to find some of those there on the sectionals. Okay. So again, compass roses you'll see on sectionals. Most of the compass roses you're going to see are always going to be VOR stations. So we've got 0 degrees here. This is a tough one because there's so much stuff. Let's see if I can find another one. Here we go. All right, so here's a VOR. This is the Augusta VOR. And there's, again, we can see our line of longitude right here. And here is our magnetic north. That's pointing magnetic north. And again, you can see the angle difference between the longitudinal line and the radial line that's coming off this VOR right here. But notice this. All right, so east is pointing up this way. And there's a line of latitude right there. You'd think that would go east-west. Well, that's true east and true west would be along this line. But magnetic east and west is at a line like this. There's this right here is 90 degrees right here. And this is the 270-degree radial. Yeah, it's hard to see that, but right there it says 27. That's 270 degrees. This is 90 degrees over here. Okay. All right. So they've got some, let's see if I can show you this. They actually show this here. Yeah, this is a good diagram right here to show you the difference between true north and magnetic north. True north, again, is what the Earth rotates on. Basically you put a shaft through the Earth is spinning around that shaft. Magnetic north, however, that has to do with the Earth's core and how it rotates, and basically it creates a magnetic field. That's further south of true north. It's I don't know if anybody knows their geography really well, where this is in Canada. Is that the Yukon territories up there? I don't know. But in any case, it's quite a ways.
I believe that there's a series of islands of Canada.
Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, the point here is that this is quite a distance away from true north, and it shifts a lot. And I mean a lot. Like every year, it shifts, 40, 50, maybe 60 miles in a year. And it just, I don't know if it rotates around like this, but it's constantly moving around. So it's something we have to take into account as pilots. We have to be aware of that. So the magnetic lines of variance that I was telling you about on the sectional maps, those shift constantly. Fortunately, our magnetic variance lines here in Wisconsin are close to 0. Well, actually, let's go back to this one right here. So let's see, probably this, I think that this line right here, it's not saying that here.
Is that why these sectionals expire in short?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why they expire. There's another reason why they expire too, though, and that's because frequencies change. There's new airports get decommissioned, things like that. So the true north right here, if you're in line with true north and magnetic north, which we are in Wisconsin, we're really close. So this isn't an exact representation of it. It's probably closer. The magnetic north is now probably closer over here. but we're actually right in line with the true north and magnetic north. So our magnetic line of variance is almost zero. So we can actually verify that if we go back to our map here. Let's see where you at here. Let's see, I'm going to go back to Baraboo. Let's see. Okay. So here is the Mickey Mouse area right there. There's Baraboo Dells right there. Okay. So what I'm looking for on this sectional, I'm looking for a dashed magenta line. Can anybody see it on there? There's actually two of them on there that I can see. Maybe three. Can anybody see a dashed magenta line? It's again, it's really hard to see there. Now it's a little bit easier. There's one right here, right there, dashed magenta line. And there's another one right here. It's again a vertical line. Those are lines of magnetic variance. And let's just see what our magnetic variance lines is. There's going to be a number along here someplace. We'll have to, here we go. Gosh, there was something there. Again, with sectional charts, it gets so congested. Here we go. 2 degrees. That's 2 degrees west, probably. I'm guessing. Where is it? West. You have to really look for these numbers on a regular section. What's that?
Degrees west on that.
3. Where does it say 3 degrees?
The right one.
Right
Oh, right one?
above Stevens.
Oh yeah, 3 degrees west. Okay, good. So again, that's a line of magnetic variance. They're 3 degrees west. So now keep in mind, this is old. Oh no, wait a second. These are current. So it has shifted a lot, just like the past couple of years. Because at one point we were at close to 0 degrees, but now it's 3 degrees west.
Where's it in Seattle?
We'll open up our charts and I'll have you guys look for that. So yeah.
Is there any pattern to the movement of the magnetic north pole that we know of?
Not that I know of. Do you know of any pattern at all to the change in the magnetic pole at all? As in, like, is there a pattern? Does it change like a certain number of miles per year, or does it just have like a pattern that it follows? There is. Okay, Theo, did you hear that?
Yeah.
What's that? Oh, that's the path. Oh, that's kind of cool. That's the magnetic north poles drifting over the. Is that over a span of like several years?
First measurement there.
Yeah, for now, like the changes that we now expected 5 months.
15.5 miles per year. Okay, cool. Okay. Okay, so is it increasing? It is. Okay.
Currently.
Cool.
Is it possible for a tree to come down to this concern for magnetic north?
So to answer your question, 1931 to 2000.
I think that, or maybe, I
Would
think
it be
it was the towards that.
There is evidence that the poles have actually shifted throughout time.
Yes, throughout time. Yeah, we're talking like millions of years, maybe, or hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah.
Yep. Uh-huh.
All of that.
Uh-huh.
So we're gonna do stone stuff like all of that. Kind of like late with the most recent.
Yeah.
We're late for a reversal.
For like
Yeah.
500,000.
Yeah. It's and that backs up what Preet is saying, that it's accelerating now, the change in the rate of change. You know, it's increasing. What's that?
I say it's.
Yep. Mm-hmm. All right. Again, let's getting back to this. That's considered magnetic variation. So there's, again, that's the difference between the true north, which never shifts for the most part. You know, I mean, that's the pole that the axis that the Earth rotates on. and the magnetic poles, which do shift, right? And again, we need to be aware of that because we're navigating on this globe and we need to know where we are. If we don't have a GPS, let's say our GPS dies on us, we need to, revert to our knowledge of, reading sectionals and understanding that. So
The bit of actually hits us with the true north on the sheet. Earth voltage on change.
I talked to Preet after class. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I believe.
Probably would. Yeah. It would be something to talk to Preet and Janelle if those guys would know it. So, all right. So here, effective variation on the compass. Obviously, we kind of saw that when we looked at the map. So you've got north. This is the true north pole. This is the magnetic north pole. We saw this in the sectional that I showed you. Remember in Maine, that VOR station was pointing like this, and the line of longitude was like this. Do you guys remember that, the VOR station there? So that again, the VOR compass roses are always oriented toward magnetic north. They're not pointing at the true north pole. They're pointing at the magnetic north. And so we saw that. So in this case, this would be one out in Seattle. I tell you what, let's do this, maybe because this would be helpful for us to understand this. Without making, let's try to open our sectionals up. Once you get them open, just hold them open so we don't make too much noise with them. But open up the north section of your sectional and try to get Seattle in it. So it's open up like this. So Seattle's right in the center. If you want, you can open up the full chart. And Preet and Janelle, if you don't mind, maybe walking around and helping students out. So what I want you guys to do for this is to see if you can find, I'll hold it for the people at home here. See if you can find a line of variance, magnetic variance on this chart. There's a couple of them on there that I see there, and find out what it is. I'd like to hear what the magnetic variance line is that's going by Seattle. Okay, if you've got a chart here, just take a look at that.
Because that is what we want to be able to do very things. So just try and open the second page, and that will be able.
We got that. Yeah, that's again very important. Thank you. Because in the plane, you're not going to have this huge area, especially if you're in the 150. You barely have enough room to, have your cell phone on your lap. So.
Just remember the pages as you open them.
Any questions? All right. So Preet and Janelle are going to go around. I'll come around, maybe deal with some questions or just see if you guys got it. Maybe just kind of quiz them on different things, I guess, like look for Class C airspace, Class B airspace, Class D airspace. So for the people at home, we're going to I'm going to work with individual students here. You might hear us talking a little bit. We're basically going to go, well, actually, I tell you what, let me do this. If you can, at home, and you do have a sectional, see if you can find a line of magnetic variance on your Seattle sectional. Let's see if everybody can do that.
I see Oak Harbor, Seattle.
What's that?
It's the Seattle under Oak Harbor.
Uh-huh.
Is that Seattle? Or is
Let me, I'll do it.
CTAC.
this one? Oh, because of the big. Okay.
Oak Harbor is small.
All right. And then where do I see the?
Yeah, so it's the line variance.
No, like this is Seattle Airport, but where does it say?
For the Seattle CTAC.
That's again, let's say.
Oh, yes.
Would be somewhere up here. I'm just flown into Seattle. Just how to move on. It's what's about. It can't, yeah, because that we use a compass that's magnetic is based on the magnetic field. The compass here. Yeah, it's magnetic shift. And that's the problem. It's great. Right here. That's why she's the compass is that. Is that correct? There's magnetic, that's a turn your dial. Right. Are you doing your? Yep, right there. Okay, perfect. So if you're in this area, that's gonna be your line, that's the amount of stuff we cover. And the number, you're gonna have to change if you want to convert it, you can get. Perfect, all right. And Sam, you got yours?
Yep.
Yep.
15 degrees, please.
Yep.
And then 30.
And you see the other one there? I think it's over, I think it's on the other side here. You may have to expand down a little bit. Okay. All right. And how are you guys doing here? Good. We're under safety. Perfect. Yeah. Yeah, knowing that stuff. So, yeah. Perfect.
What's the 1530?
So when you look at because I think it's going to be a bit. This is like computing. Okay, so you see here, these degrees. So if you're standing here, right, your compass is going to point this way. So you turn there.
Magnetic ones that way.
All right, can anybody, just a good question for everybody here. Can anybody tell me what latitude runs through Seattle Airport?
So it's 15 degrees.
Oh, so you would learn. So
I think.
Okay, you say 122? I'm gonna write these down here, so. Okay,
Yeah. Right in between.
so we're talking, what, I asked what latitude, right? So yeah, what latitude runs through the Seattle airport? That's the question. What latitude? You know, I actually have to look here. So let's see. So here's the let's answer this together. All right. So what we're gonna do here is first off, I see a line of latitude right here, 47. Here's the airport right up here. Okay. So this right here is 47 degrees north latitude, right? Okay. So that's the proper way of saying it. Because if you just say 47, we really don't know if it's north or south. Of course, we're in the northern hemisphere, so we'll assume it's north. But it's always a good idea to make that distinction there. Okay, so now we want to count up. So we'll go, here's 10, that little tick mark that's a little bit larger there, that's 10 minutes north of 47. Here's 20 minutes north. Here's 30 minutes, oops. Here's 30 minutes north. So we're just a little shy of that. So it's probably like right through the airport there, it's probably like, what is it, like 27, 20, I think about 27 or 28 too, that would take it through there. So it's actually 47 degrees north, 47 degrees and 27 to 28 minutes north latitude that runs through the Seattle airport there. Okay. Now find the longitude. See if you can find what the longitude is. So we can precisely locate it and we can communicate it to somebody. Donnie, do you have any questions about it? Good. All right. Anybody have a number on the longitude? Okay, Theo?
122 122 degrees west and 22 minutes.
Okay, so let's take a look at that. So here we are on the screen. Let me zoom in a little bit more. There's our line of longitude right there, 122. We know that our longitude lines west increase as we go west, right? So this is going to be 122. If I look over to the right, 30 degrees, another 30 degrees, there's 121. So we know they're increasing as we move to the left on the sectional map, right? So 122, this is the degree, the longitude line right here. And what we want to do is get over to roughly this one right here. So what we are at, so this is 122, there's 122, 10 minutes. And again, it's kind of hard to see. It's almost, I think it's probably about 19 minutes there. So I've got 122 and 19 minutes west longitude for that. Does everybody else have that? Does that make sense? All right. So now I'm going to give you some coordinates. Let me just see if I can figure out an area here. Just, I'm going to give you coordinates, and I want you to tell me what airport is at these coordinates. This is something you will have on the flight test, on the exam anyway, the knowledge exam. All right. So let's see. All right. Break this down here. All right. And let's see. Let's see. Sorry, it's taking me a second to figure this out here. So. All right. Right. And what's that? Oh, yeah. Actually, so I'm going to give you, actually, Pete's going to give you one, and I'm going to give you one. See if you guys can get these. I'm going to give you one. The one I want you to find, I want you to name, tell me the airport that is at, let's see, north 47 degrees and 2 minutes north latitude. And you guys need pencil to write that down at all? And I need then for the longitude number, it's 122 degrees 15 minutes west longitude. And see if you can find out what airport is at that location. Then Preet's going to give you. What's that? It's the north latitude is going to be 47 degrees and 2 minutes north latitude, and 122 degrees and 15 minutes west longitude. Okay, so you guys know what it is? Yeah, hold on a second here. Yeah. How's everybody doing at home? You guys finding that there? Again, if you're using Seattle sectional, if you don't have a Seattle sectional at home, you can use the skybector.com. You can go there and use that as a substitute for sectional chart. Although having a printed sectional chart is really handy. And Jen, I should have dropped them off at your school this last week when I was there. I do apologize. I should have dropped them off. Okay. All right. Does everybody kind of have an idea where that is? Good. Okay. All right. What's the name of the airport that's there? What is it? Kapar. What is it? Kapausen. Okay. I knew it was something really weird. Let me just verify that. So yeah, that sounds right. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So Free's got another one for you. So.
47 degrees and 30 minutes. well. 190 degrees. West.
What was the latitude again?
119 degrees and 8 west.
119, you said? 119?
Yes, 119.
Okay, gotcha. And then the latitude?
47 degrees.
And 12 minutes? Okay. Okay, so the people at home, we want you to find the airport that is at 47 degrees, 12 minutes north latitude. And longitude is going to be 119 degrees, 20 minutes, again, west longitude. So if you could, at home, if you could go on the sectionals and see if you can find that, we'll get you the answer here in a second. So the answer to the last question that we just had, that was my glasses on here, was Paulson Field. That was the answer to the last one, and that was at 47 degrees, 2 minutes north latitude, and 122 degrees, 15 minutes west longitude. That was Compulsion.
47.
So now Reed has got another one for us, and again, that's 47 degrees, like 12 minutes north latitude, and 119 degrees, 20 minutes west longitude. See if you can find out what airport is there. Each little tick mark is 1 minute.
It was 109 and what was the minutes?
Most places right there. It says it's a lot. Not airport.
Donnie?
I think I got.
Okay. Okay, give you guys another couple, another 30 seconds to see if you can find that. Does everybody have it?
Yep.
You guys have it? You're lost? Okay. All right, that's right. We're gonna actually go through this online here.
You go for 119, and then find that one. And then you go for 47. And then you go for 12 minutes and 20 minutes. That is how you can.
Okay, we all good? Yep. And the name of the place is?
Grant Country International.
What airspace is that?
That
Moses Lake.
What structure do you think it's?
has a great.
Is it like a blue solid line, blue dash line, or is this? A solid line?
Yeah.
And what color is it? So blue dash color is class D. People.
That's a good point. I didn't think of that. Yeah.
Sorry. It is not powered 24/7. Okay. Do you need a CT and a 1Y8 question that's a star right next to it? You see that star right next to it. So whenever there is a star next to any number, that means that it has some limitations. So you need to look that up in the chart supplement. What are those limitations of that data? Sometimes it goes like after sunset, or usually after sunset or after 7 p.m. or 6 p.m. The power shuts down and then it turns into a class 3 airspace. So we check this.
On the which one you're looking at, it usually said the airspace classification on the,
Are we talking about Grant County here?
yeah, Grant County. Where would you, like, it said it, but I don't know where it says it on here.
That it's class D
Yeah.
airspace, Delta airspace? They don't have to say it, that it's class C or class D or class B.
It does. It says an effective hour, class D, if effective hours.
Yeah, that's for noodles. So they were
Understand?
okay, so most typical county usually rolls like, sometimes there's like airport or something.
Mhm.
So we have like military airports, like just on top of it, you see this MOA,
Mhm.
just above it there is an MOA. So usually airports or military aircrafts from there, they come over here just like wear one, like just show it up. And
There's a
during
bombing
that
range
time, sorry?
I think there's a bombing range there.
Yes, and during that time, sometimes the airport is closed or there's just one runway which is open to other aircraft. And that is how you know if it is existing and that is the moment. So any changes in the airspace or the surrounding area is brought out by the FAA to the public via the notice. So before you need to check the notice.
That's again, as pilot in command, we have to make ourselves aware of all the information available to us for that flight. So we should, when we look at this though, the dashed blue line, as Preet was saying, we just want to make sure that you should be able to identify that it's class D airspace without looking for a label that says class D. You can't, there's no guarantee that you're going to see class D anywhere around there. In this case, you were referring to this right here, the C note and supplement for class D effective hours. That's not always going to be there, but the dashed line will always be there. The labels on some of these airports, especially when they're around place, if let's say you've got a bunch of class D airspace airports around a class Bravo airport, that gets so congested, they'll start cutting out labels because it gets too congested. But so you should always know, okay, what does a class D airport looks like? It's a dashed blue line, as opposed to, look at this right here. This is a dashed magenta line. Two very different things there. This is controlled. Anything that's blue usually refers to it's got more control. Here's a blue airport right here. That's controlled right here. And if I look at some of the other airports on here, we'll see more. There's another one right here. There's a controlled airport. That's blue. These magenta airports are typically uncontrolled. Okay. All right. So the answer to the long question that Preet had was again Grant County Airport.
So,
Right. And the airspace question that she had was class Delta airspace.
the airport, west of that,
This right here.
Freda, yeah.
This right here.
That would be a G.
It would be what she's referring to there is that magenta line right there. That's actually takes it right down to the ground. Now, we remember Echo airspace, we said it's controlled airspace, but it's only controlled when you're in IFR conditions. They don't, you don't have to talk to ATC when it's not IFR. And what I mean by that is like the conditions are, greater than 3 miles visibility. Remember we talked about the requirements to enter various airspace, well, the 3152s, right? This is well, I don't know what the altitude there is there, but it's probably under 10,000 feet, I'm sure. Yeah, it's under 10, it's like 2,000, somewhere around there. So it'd be 3152s, 3 statute miles of visibility. We have to be 1,000 feet above clouds or 500 feet below clouds, 2,000 feet horizontal separation between clouds. And then we don't have to worry about it. But if it turns to IFR conditions, it gets below that 3,152, then obviously we're now in IFR. If the visibility is safe, sorry, less than 3,000. So
And then
3 miles.
this airport is a class G?
It would be considered a class G. Well, it's in class E airspace, so I guess you'd consider it a class E, but it's not, doesn't necessarily mean it has a control tower. You know, just because it's in class E airspace. They may have a control tower there, but I'm not seeing it here. They just, all this is just a beacon right here. A controlled tower controlled airports are typically blue. Like this one right here, you can see this is blue right here. It's got a control tower. And if you look at the information block for Grant County, see that's all blue right there. It says CT, that's your control air traffic control tower frequency. In this case, it's 18.25. And you also have the CTAF, which is 128.0. You have your ATIS for here, which is the Automated Terminal Information Service that we talked about in weather reporting. That's 119.05. And then you've got some other information here about the altitude of the airport, the length of the runways, and things like that. So these RPs right here, that stands for right-hand pattern for runway 14 right, and then 18, 22, 27, and 32 are all right-hand traffic. And that's because they want to keep you away from probably the area here. So this is something that's worth noting. The yellow areas that you're going to see on sectionals, you see these yellow areas? If you were flying at night, this is the outline that you would see for the lights. Yeah, the city lights there. So that's really helpful if you're, you know, say you're flying and you're not sure if you're here or here. I could look, and if I saw a pattern that was kind of long like this, I would know that I'm south of this airport, as opposed to this one, which is much wider over here. You could even look to the south. Do I see lights down here? Yep. Okay. Well, then that means you're probably in this area right here. So again, that's the outline of the lights at night that you would see of the city there. So now the last thing before we've got like just a few minutes left, what I really would like to do is actually use our plotter so we know how to use this, because next week we're going to dive into actually we're going to put everything together, all the stuff that we've learned over the weeks and months here. We're going to put together next week. But what I want to do is use our plotter to figure out distance and the direction to an airport. So let me just look at this. Let's wake up.
Calculator. What's the conversion rate for miles? No, the interest amount.
500,000 inches. Inches. 12 times 5,280.
How many inches?
12 times 5,280.
Oh,
It's 5,280 feet times 12. That is, I don't have. Okay, so. Smoke down to, all right, so this is your task. Now, Preet and Janelle and myself will be walking around to help you with this. So in this case, we're going to learn how to use the plotter right here. This, your plotter. Yeah, we do have, oh gosh. They are back at the, do you guys have one? Okay, you can use mine here. So let me just demonstrate for this. You guys don't have one? You guys have? Oh, okay. Oh, you guys might have some. Yeah, I think they are left them at the hangar. What's that? Sure. Do you want to work with them? Okay, great. Okay. So what we're going to do, if you can, you want to write this down probably. I'll give out pencils here, so probably need some of these here. Yeah, shit, paper or something like that. Right. Please leave these pencils on your at the table when you're done here. Can you do me a favor? Can you pass these pencils on? Yeah. Okay, so our task is we need to find the distance between two airports, and we also need to find the
true heading from one airport to this one airport to the other. So the problem is we're going to start at Spokane International Airport. The ICAO sign is GEG, I believe here. Yep. So sure. And we're going to go from there, from Spokane International Airport on your sectional to Moses Lake, the airport at Moses Lake. Okay, and that's just to the west of it. So what we need to do is find out the true heading, and we need to find the distance. Now, you guys, before you get into this, let me just show you this plotter right here that's you're holding up. Make sure you're using, when you measure the distance on it, make sure you're using the sectional side, not the PHAK side. So there's two sides to this. And if you look at the very bottom of the plotter right here, it's going to say PHAK or it's going to say sectional. You guys see this? Sectional and PHAK. Make sure you're using the sectional side. This gets a lot of students when they take the test. They use the PHAK side and get the distance wrong. Here's what the FAA does on those tests. They know, they know you're going to make that mistake, and so they're going to put the PHAK distance on in one of the answers. So it would be easy for you to say, oh yeah, that's what I got, when you're using the wrong distance here. They're looking for the sectional, because you're measuring on a sectional chart. Again, for this problem, we're looking at the true heading from Spokane International Airport to the Moses Lake Airport, and we're looking for the distance. That's the problem. So now here's the thing. When you use this is Preet is going to walk around and help you guys out too with this. To use the plotter to find the actual degrees, the heading, the true heading from one airport to the next, the first thing you're going to want to do is draw a line using your plotter. It's going to be hard for me to do, but I'm going to try to demonstrate this. Great. So you're going to take your plotter like this, put it one over the center of the Spokane International Airport, okay, and then the other one, you want to basically draw a line. So with your pencil, everybody listen here real quick. With a pencil, draw a straight line using your plotter, okay, from the Spokane to the Moses Lake Airport. Now you should have a straight line, okay. The next thing we need to do here, and this is, again, you're going to need my help and Preet's help. We need to figure out the actual true heading with that. Again, it's true heading, not magnetic. We need to figure that out. And what we do here to find out the true heading is we want to take our plotter, put it on the line, and there's in the center, I don't know if you look at very closely at the center of your plotter, there's a little tiny hole that's right here. You guys see that little tiny hole right there? What we want to do is put our plotter on the line, and we want to slide that hole to a line of longitude, okay? And then that is going to give us, we should be able to see the distance there. Am I doing that right? I think it's, gosh. No, I'm not having second thoughts here. I have to actually put this on the thing here myself. Bear with me just a second while I actually plot this out here. Do this here. Yeah, here. Okay, so yeah, that's right. That's right. So we put it on the line of, so you put the plotter on the line, right? Okay, and then make sure that you put the dot on a line of longitude. Okay, and what you're going to do is read the degrees up on the top, on where the longitude lines. So let's see if I can get this set up here. I really can't do this very well from here. Let's see. So that dot, that little grommet, that centered point there, should be going right through a line of longitude. Okay. And what you're going to do is you're going to read the degrees on the top of the plotter there. It's going to say whatever. One of those is going to be to the west, and one of them is going to be to the east. We're really interested in the one going to the west. All right. And see what you come up with. Does that make sense? And actually, this is where Preet and I can help you out with this.
there's so your yeah, it's right, very sensitive. So let's degrees. So again, first always start out with putting the ruler, your plotter there. Always start out with the plotter, the bottom of the plotter resting on the center of the airports. Don't worry about lines of latitude and longitude. We're going to do that in a second. You always draw your line, your direct line from one airport to the other first. Then we're going to worry about figuring the distance and the direction, the magnetic or the true heading we have for it. Okay. What's that? You don't have a plotter. I'm sorry. Yep. I just have this. Oh, sorry.
So it isn't 19 degrees.
Does everybody understand that? Again, draw a direct line from the Spokane International Airport directly to the Moses Lake Airport. Don't do anything else. Just do that first. Should be a straight line right across the board there.
Yeah. That way. That's my understanding.
What's that?
We're still trying to figure out.
For the direction? Yeah.
Because it measures 19 degrees, but that is like 2 Spokane.
Yeah. So let me show you. So what you're gonna do? You've got your line, straight line. Okay. So you don't want to do that. Let me show you. Okay. Yeah. So you got it on there. What you're gonna do is put your I can't see the course in there.
Yeah, it's really funny. It's right.
Is that oh gotcha. Okay. Yeah. All right. So you're gonna read these numbers up. All right. So we're going from Spokane to this airport, wherever it is right there. And we've got that going through the line of longitude. So we would read, what would that be?
So that would be 7.
Well, going this way?
It'll be 250.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
All right.
I got some.
So
I got
instead of
84.
doing that way,
Okay. So
that way.
So we are 256.
Yeah. So here's a line. You line it up.
It's going down.
There.
Somebody.
So that's
actually going
Yeah, 250. 250.
If we were going from Spokane to
Yeah, I got yeah, I got some. That's fine.
Yeah. Yes.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the north would be 7.
Well, we don't find that and also there's apps with specific airplanes and you put two equations for points. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So the rest of the problem is pretty easy. So what I want you guys to do, we're done now. But what I want you to do next week is start getting these out and start using them. You should be spending like 3 hours if you can after class here, go home. These E6B computers, they're going to tell you actually everything you need to do to carry you through the next part of the phase there, or the steps through the to get to your compass heading. We just calculated the true heading. So that's when I say true, we're talking about true north, right? Okay. So now we need to convert it over to the compass heading because that's what we're going to have in the cockpit. We're in the plane. We're not going to know what the true heading is. We only have reference to the magnetic heading. So, so that's what we're going to work on next week.
And then we're going to start using the E6B computers. You should be able to work with this on your E6Bs. Everybody should have one of these. If you don't, let me know before you go. There should be a little booklet in there. Those are really easy to follow booklets. Go through there and actually do some of the problems on there. Okay. Any questions? It'll probably use, I'm guessing, I'm thinking it would use SIA. Yeah. They have actually, all you have to do is look at the flight,
Thank you.
the testing supplement. And it's in the first session. Learning portals are the very first session. It's like the required reading or something. Just read it, it says something like that, testing supplement.
I was learning that, like section.
You know, I might.
Yeah, can I?
I know, we just have 3 days.
All right.
No Chicago's. You can check up front and see if they've got an expired Chicago. What's that? Oh, yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. See that? You guys gonna hang around for a second? Yeah. Okay, good. I want to chat with you. Okay. All right. Why don't you take that and you've got E6B, right? Yeah. Okay. Use that and then I'll trade it with you with the new one. See that a new one there. So. What's that? Yeah, same time next week. We're extending it. So next week will be the final class, though. We're going to do the E6B. We'll do the navigation, and then we talk briefly about the aeromedical factors, which is a pretty easy chapter going through that. So we'll wrap it up, and then after that, we'll do the flights, and we can schedule a bunch of things there. So yeah, thank you. You guys take care. We'll see you later, Donnie. Take care.
Thank you, Joe, very much.
Oh yeah, not a problem. Yeah. If you can make it, yeah. I know it's gonna be busy, so I get it.
Okay.
Yes. I do not. What you guys can do, you could go up front and ask them if they have an expired Chicago sectional. Oftentimes they just give them out. So. Perfect. That sounds great. Thank you much, Colin. Take care.